Welcome, everyone. This is your friend, the DN What If, here with another exciting fanfiction. Today, we're diving into the story of What If Deku Taught a Broken Girl to Control Her Power? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more fanfiction content just like this. Now, let's get started with the fanfic. OC name, Amaya Teira. Hair color, dark blue with purple highlights. Eye color, purple. Height, 162 centimeters. Age, 15. Birthday, October 11th. Quirk, somber flora. Quirk type, emitter type. Description: the user is able to grow any flower type, roots or vines. These plants react to the user's emotions as well as emotional energy in the environment. When an excess of negative emotions are present, the user is able to metallize the plants, making them more resistant and even suitable for combat. Weaknesses: since the plants grow by feeding on the user's own energy, creating too many in a short PRD causes extreme fatigue. However, metallizing them greatly increases this exhaustion and also takes a heavy toll on the user's emotions, as it requires channeling and enduring negativity. Get up, the voice said before yanking the girl out of bed. She couldn't see very well to whom it belonged, her vision too blurry to see with clarity. It felt like an eternity until they reached their destination. Amaya did not need her sight to know where the unknown person took her. The sharp scent of antiseptic clinging to her nose told her everything she needed to know. She had been brought to the laboratory. Her vision cleared a bit. The previous drowsiness she felt completely abandoned her body. Fight or flight response activated due to her already knowing what was about to happen. From the corner of her eye she saw 3 figures approaching her, and before she could react, 2 men grabbed her arms and legs to restrain her while the third man readied a syringe. The men were stronger than her. Before she could resist, they had pinned her to the bed. Amaya closed her eyes shut as she was bracing herself for the syringe's sting, but the pain never came. Confused as ever, Amaya opened her eyes to see nothing. That's when she heard another voice. Amaya? And she jolted awake from her nightmare, not paying much attention to the presence that barged inside her room, a thick layer of sweat covering her whole body, her breathing so ragged it took her several minutes for it to steady. Amaya turned to check the digital clock on her nightstand. 2 a.m., she muttered to herself. Are you okay? Another nightmare? Amaya's daze was broken when she heard her guardian's question. Yeah, she replied while swatting the sweat from her forehead. You want to talk about it? Izawa asked the teen while sitting down on her bed ready to offer her comfort. Amaya hugged the man immediately, not replying to the question made by the man. Izawa reciprocated the hug while patiently waiting for the girl to answer his question. Just the experiments they conducted while I was with them, she replied quietly. If it weren't for the fact Izawa was so close to her, he might have not heard what she said. Neither dared to say another word, allowing the comforting blanket of silent comfort to fall over them. After a while, Izawa noticed Amaya fell asleep once again, so as delicately as he could, he pried away from the girl's arms and tucked her in. Slowly, the man stood up from his sitting position to go back to his own room and try to get some sleep. A few hours later, Amaya woke up again, but this time it wasn't some nightmare's fault, it was her alarm ringing. With eyes still heavily lidded, Amaya turned off her alarm, ready to lay back down and allow sleep to take over her again until she read what day it was. It was the day of UA High's entrance exams. With excitement, Amaya headed to her bathroom, where she washed her face, applied some sunscreen and got dressed with some training pants, a crop top and her training sneakers. After this, Amaya left her room, and as she made her way towards the kitchen, she saw Izawa sitting down on the dining table, mug of coffee in one hand, his phone where he was reading the news on his other hand, and his cat laying comfortably on his lap. Morning, Izawa said as he saw the girl entering the kitchen. Morning, Amaya replied while opening the fridge to grab some eggs and ham. Are you nervous for the entrance exam? Izawa asked. Yeah, like, normal entrance exam is one thing, but recommendation entrance exam? That's a whole other level, Amaya replied whilst making herself breakfast. You got this, kiddo. You've trained like crazy these last 10 months, Amaya heard Izawa say. I know, but I'm still scared. What if my past has scarred me so badly I freeze and fail, or my quirk dash? Don't. You'll not fail. You've done some crazy improvements from our first training 4 years ago up to today. don't let your past stop you from achieving your dreams. Now eat your breakfast and head towards UA or else you'll be late. Aizawa interrupted Amaya's rant in a stern way, but Amaya knew better. She knew her guardian meant well. Yeah, Amaya muttered. After eating her breakfast, Amaya quickly brushed her teeth, grabbed her tote bag with some things she might need, her phone and her headphones, and started walking towards UA. It was a short walk from the Aizawa residence to UK, but Amaya still put her headphones on to listen to music. As she approached school grounds, Amaya saw a boy with a peppermint-like hair. Wondering if he was also going to take the entrance exam, she sprinted to catch up to him. It didn't take Amaya long to catch up to the boy, so when she did, she asked him if he was going to take the entrance exam too, to which the boy dryly replied, "Yeah, why else would I be here?" Amaya thought he was kinda rude but said nothing about it as they continued to silently walk inside of campus together. When Amaya and the unknown boy found the classroom where the written portion of the exam was gonna be held, Amaya sat down on her assigned seat and grabbed her pencil and eraser. When the examination room was packed with aspiring heroes, Amaya heard a very loud voice screaming, "Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the U.A recommendation exam." Amaya covered her ears to avoid any damage from the loud noise. As you guys may know, this exam will be divided into 3 sections. A written portion which you will be handed very soon, the practical test, where we'll test your control over your quirks, and the interview. Present Mick's voice boomed once again in the room. The exams are being handed over. As soon as you get your exam handed, you kids are free to start. And may the odds be ever in your favor. Remember, you have only 2 hours to complete the test. As Present Mike finished talking, Amaya was handed her test. When the 2 hours passed, it was time to head towards the training ground where the practical will be conducted. Present Mike started to explain how the practical will work. Okay. With the written portion finalized, we can now start with the practical test. You'll race in groups of use your quirks to complete the obstacle course, and after you complete it you may head to the faculty room for your interview. Are you ready? Present Mike explained. As the groups before Amaya completed the race, Amaya's anxiety was slowly increasing. Seeing so many powerful and versatile quirks that helped students complete the course so fast made her begin to doubt her own abilities. Unfortunately, she did not have too much time to overthink it because Present Mike called her group out. As she approached the starting line, Amaya began to strategize a bit. Maybe if she grew a big vine and used it to launch herself as far as possible, and before landing she could grow a hydrangea to soften her landing. Just as Amaya finished her strategy, Present Mike gave them all the cue to start. Like she planned, Amaya made a thick vine grow from the ground and metallized its base to give the vine some support. Then she wrapped the rest of the vine around her torso. Concentrating all of her energy into making the vine grow more and moving the vine to a 45-degree angle as possible, she then proceeded to launch herself forward with an incredible speed. When Amaya started losing momentum, she grew a hydrangea big enough to fit her entire body to soften her landing. Surprisingly, she managed to travel the whole length of the course, finishing it a few seconds after a guy with a wind quirk and the bicolor-haired boy. About 30 minutes later, Amaya had finished her interview. As she was heading outside of the campus, she saw the 2 boys from her group for the practical test. Amaya was just going to ignore them and continue walking, but she heard something that piqued her attention. "You know, I was just trying to be nice and maybe start a friendship, but you're just like Endeavor, you even have the same cold eyes," the guy with the wind quirk said. "You think I'm the same as my old man?" the bicolor-haired boy replied, his voice laced with a tint of what Amaya could describe as disappointment. The taller male walked away without replying the question made by the other aspiring hero. Not wanting to pry any longer, Amaya walked past the bicolor-haired boy with her headphones on in an attempt to pretend she didn't eavesdrop. Today marked a week since Amaya took the entrance exam. It was a week full of overthinking and anxiety. But after a long wait, the letter that will define Amaya's future arrived in the mail. "Amaya, the results are in," Aizawa said, opening the door of Amaya's room a little bit. Aizawa barely finished his sentence when the teenager sprung out of her bed and took the letter from the older male. Amaya hesitated a bit before ripping the seal of the letter open. She fished the little disc out of the envelope, and as soon as she did, an All Might hologram emerged. "Haha, hey there, young Tara. I'm pleased to inform you that you've been accepted into the U.Hero program due to your outstanding performance in the entrance exam. When Amaya heard those words, she started crying. Noticing her tears, Aizawa hugged her while congratulating her for her admission. About 2 months have passed from the moment Amaya received her UA acceptance letter, 2 months of immense excitement but also great nervousness and anxiety. Amaya has spent these months pondering if she's actually good enough to be in the hero course or if she'll be able to get along with her classmates. Her troubled past has made it impossible to ever socialize, let alone make friends her age. And finally, after a pretty long wait, today marks Amaya's first day in UA. When her alarm rang, Amaya practically bolted out of bed to take a shower. After this, she put her uniform on, which consisted of a deep bluish-green pleated skirt, a white button-up, gray blazer and a red tie which she couldn't tie properly, so she went downstairs to ask Aizawa for help. Aizawa was making breakfast when he noticed the teenager girl's presence. When he turned his head around to tell her the hour they were gonna head towards UA, he noticed Amaya's tie laying untied around her neck. She didn't even need to ask him for help because before she could even begin her sentence, Aizawa was approaching her with a small smile plastered on his face to help the girl with her tie. "Are you excited?" Aizawa asked as he began to do Amaya's tie. "Yeah, but I'm also kind of nervous. At the end of the day, it's my first time being in an actual school," Amaya replied just as Aizawa finished doing her tie. "How did you tie it so quickly?" "That's insane," Amaya muttered as she held the red tie on her hand, her voice laced with surprise. "Because I've got experience, kid. And I should teach you how to do it 'cause I ain't helping you out every single day," Aizawa replied jokingly as he ruffled Amaya's hair slightly. "Hey, don't mess up with my hair," Amaya whined as she swatted the older man's hand away. Aizawa laughed a bit before going back to the stove. Being kinda curious about what her guardian was cooking, she approached Aizawa and took a peek at what was on the stove. "What are we cooking?" she asked. "We, sounds like teamwork, Maya," Aizawa started. "You know what I mean," Amaya huffed. "Tamagoyaki," Aizawa replied while adding more eggs to the pan. "Now go sit down, this is almost ready," he finished, and Amaya went to sit down at the table. A few minutes later, Aizawa sat down across from Amaya with 2 plates of tamagoyaki, setting one in front of him and the other plate slid towards Amaya's direction. "Thanks," Amaya said with a small head bow, and as soon as Aizawa took the first bite out of his plate, Amaya immediately dug in. After they were both done with their breakfast, Amaya grabbed both plates and chopsticks and headed towards the sink to wash the dishes. "Remember, we leave in 30 minutes, Aizawa reminded the girl before going upstairs. When Amaya finished the dishes, she went back to her room to do her hair and her makeup. Amaya sat down at her vanity, opened a drawer to grab a hair tie, and styled her hair in a messy half-up, half-down. With her hair already styled, she opened another drawer and grabbed her blush, eyelash curler, eyeliner, and setting powder and eyebrow gel. Starting off with sunscreen, Amaya put on sunscreen. Then Amaya brushed her eyebrows with the brow gel. After that, she grabbed her blush and blush brush and applied it on her cheekbones and finished her small routine with curling her eyelashes and some setting powder. Before leaving her room, Amaya put on her rings and sprayed perfume on her neck, behind her knees, on her wrists, and a bit on her uniform. Lastly, Amaya went to her closet to get a pair of socks, washed her teeth, and grabbed her backpack to head downstairs. Seeing Aizawa already in the living room, Amaya stood beside his sitting form and said, "I'm ready. Kay, let's go," Aizawa replied while standing up to grab the house keys. Both Amaya and Aizawa took off their slippers. Amaya wore her Converse and Aizawa his boots and started walking towards UA. When they arrived at UA, Aizawa told Amaya he needed to go to the teacher's lounge, and before leaving he told the younger girl how to get to her classroom. After Aizawa left Amaya, the girl took off her backpack to fetch her headphones and listened to some music while walking towards her classroom. Finally, after some minutes of walking, Amaya was met with a big door with the number 1A painted on it, and right beside her, a boy with a mop of green curly hair. So she took her headphones off and said, "So, are you gonna open the door or?" When Amaya said that, she saw the boy flinch before stammering, "Oh, yeah, sorry." The boy bowed slightly while apologizing. My name is Izuku Midoriya, by the way." The boy, who Amaya now knows as Midoriya, introduced himself. "Amaya Tera, nice to meet you, Midoriya," Amaya replied before finally opening the door. As she did this, they both visibly flinched due to a loud voice screaming, "Did your old school put a stick up your butt? Or were you born with it?" An ash-blonde boy said rather loudly to a blue-haired boy with glasses. Amaya was simply going to ignore whatever was going on and walk inside of the classroom until she heard a feminine voice talk behind her. "Oh, you're the boy from the entrance exam. I'd recognize that green, unruly hair anywhere." Amaya heard Midoriya stutter a response, and before Amaya could do something else, the same bubbly voice called her out. "Oh, hi there. I don't think I saw you at the entrance exam. What's your name?" "Amaya Tara." Amaya craned her head back to respond to the question, and before the short brunette girl could say anything else, Amaya put her headphones back on and walked away to find a seat, deciding to claim the seat right beside the annoying blonde boy. Amaya set her backpack on the floor and decided to dumb scroll on her social media. Since Amaya was so immersed in losing half of her brain cells watching reels, she failed to realize that her homeroom teacher had arrived. Amaya was broken out of her brain-rotting daze due to a pretty familiar capture weapon taking her phone from her grasp. "Look who finally decided to touch some grass and actually pay attention," Aizawa said sternly. Not even knowing what to reply, Amaya just stared at her lap in shame of being called out by her guardian, who she may add apparently was her homeroom teacher. "If you guys are gonna be slacking, then let me inform you that maybe the hero course isn't made for you. Now go change into your PE uniforms and meet me in PE grounds." Aizawa continued. "But Mr. Aizawa, we're gonna miss orientation," the bubbly voice of the cute brunette girl she met a few minutes ago stated. "Yeah, well, here in UA teachers are allowed to run their classes whoever they see convenient, so go change and I'll see you all in 20 minutes. Aizawa concluded before leaving the classroom. As Amaya was leaving the changing rooms, her walk was stopped abruptly due to a pink-skinned person wrap their arm around her neck, pulling her down slightly. "Hi girl, I'm Mina Ishido, and you?" The pink girl that Amaya now knew as Ishido said. "Amaya Tara, nice to meet you Ishido," Amaya replied while unwrapping Ishido's arm from around her shoulder. "Oh please, call me Mina," Mina exclaimed. "Okay. Also, you want to walk together towards PE grounds?" Amaya asked Mina. "Yeah. Let's go," the pinkette exclaimed happily. Some minutes after Amaya and Mina arrived, Mr. Aizawa began to talk. "All your school life you've been prohibited to use your quirks during fitness tests as a cautionary measure to avoid students with weaker quirks or even quirkless to feel less. That changes today. During this fitness test you'll be allowed to use your quirks." Aizawa started, and before continuing he took out a baseball. "Bakugo, come here, you got the top score on the entrance exam. Throw this ball as far as you can." The ash blonde grabbed the ball and readied himself. Despite already knowing about his quite explosive temper, Amaya couldn't help but flinch at the loud "die" Bakugo let out as he launched the ball into the air, giving it extra impulse with the aid of a big explosion which Amaya assumed was his quirk. "He's really loud," Amaya muttered lowly, not really expecting someone to hear her, until she heard a murmur replying to her complaint. "That's Kakin for you, always being loud." When Amaya heard this, she quickly turned towards the direction of the voice. That's when she saw Midoriya staring at Bakugo with heavy admiration. "Oh Midoriya, I really didn't expect someone to hear my mutter. By any chance you know Bakugo from before entering UA? You kinda look like a simp," Amaya asked the green-haired boy. A simp? But yeah, I guess you could say that. I've known him since we're kids. I've always thought he's really awesome." Midoriya replied, quite flustered by what the girl said. "You'll be engaging in a series of tests to test your potential. Whoever ends up last clearly has none and will be expelled. Class A excluding Bakugo." Yaoyorozu and Amaya was left in shock at Aizawa's statement. Amaya was pretty calm since she knew Aizawa won't actually expel the last place, so that's what she told a panicking Midoriya, but that did nothing to calm his anxiety. Amaya thought this was pretty weird but said nothing nonetheless. Aizawa gave Class A few minutes to chill after the assessment test came to an end. Amaya feels like everybody did a great job, excluding Midoriya. He did not use his quirk until the very last test, and she gets why. As soon as he used his quirk, his index finger broke, and this only made Amaya wonder how the F can someone have so little control over a quirk you've had a decade to master control over. Seeing how poorly the freckled boy did, it was no surprise to anybody that he came last. Oh, and I lied about the expulsion part. It was a rational deception to ensure you have your all. To say everybody was shocked is an understatement. Amaya was about to say something when she noticed Midoriya about to burst into tears at the notice his dream of becoming a hero was not going to be cut short. Told you, no one was going to be expelled. You worried over nothing, Amaya said to Midoriya. I mean, Mr. Aizawa sounded so convincing I really thought I was going straight home, Midoriya whined. Midoriya, please go to Recovery Girl so she can fix that broken finger. Aizawa called Midoriya out with an infirmary pass in hand, and everyone else can go back to the classroom and grab a copy of the syllabus. Make sure you read it by tomorrow. Class dismissed. Amaya was leaving school grounds when she was stopped by Midoriya, Uraraka and Ida. Tara, hey. You were so cool back at the assessment test, Uraraka complimented her. Thanks, Uraraka, you did really well too. You all did, honestly, Amaya replied truthfully. Just as a cautionary measure, you guys are Ida, Tara and Deku, right? Uraraka suddenly said. Deku? Midoriya exclaimed in shock. Yeah, that's what that Bakugo dude called you. He said, Deku bisu. Uraraka countered, imitating Bakugo's angry voice. Oh no. That's just a name he calls me to make fun of me, Midoriya said rather embarrassed. Oh really? If it weren't for the fact that he uses the nickname to mock you I'd find it really sweet, Amaya said. Yeah, it sounds low-key heroic if you know what I mean, Uraraka seconded Amaya. Then Deku it is, Midoriya nervously said, a blush creeping up his cheeks. Are you sure, Midoriya? You just said Bakugo calls you that to make fun of you, Ida interrupted, his hands doing this weird chopping motions. Today Amaya was walking alone because Aizawa headed out earlier because he had a meeting to attend, and Amaya being a lazy beach, she rejected Aizawa's offer of arriving to school earlier because let's be for real, no one would wake up 2 hours earlier just to end up doing nothing inside of an empty classroom. Amaya was nearing school grounds when she heard a voice call out her name, so instinctively Amaya turned back to see who spoke to her, and when she did so Amaya saw Midoriya walking a few meters behind her. Good morning, Midoriya. Amaya greeted the brunette as he approached her still figure. After this brief greeting they both continued to walk together towards their classroom for their homeroom class. Seeing as both teenagers arrived at the classroom with about 20 minutes to spare, they sat down at their respective seats and started engaging conversation with the rest of their classmates. When Aizawa entered the room the chatter died down, Class 1A still kinda wary of their teacher after the expulsion threat. Good morning, class. Today you'll have your very first hero training class with a teacher I bet y'all will be excited to have class with. Chatter erupted almost immediately after Aizawa finished his sentence, everyone sharing their conspiracies of who'll impart the hero training class today. Luckily their chatter died down rather quickly thanks to a loud voice entering the classroom. I am here. Walking through the door like a normal person. Everyone was awestruck after seeing the number 1 hero walk inside the classroom. Lord, it really is All Might. Is he wearing his Silver Age costume? Were some of the things you could hear Class 1A saying. Today you young aspiring heroes will be having your first ever hero training class. All Might started explaining today's class. Guessing he saw everybody's confused faces, All Might continued, think of this class as Hero ING 101. But before we jump to battling, the first step to become actual heroes is to look good. All Might said in his usual cheery voice. Inside these briefcases you'll find the costumes you sent before the school year started based on your quirk info. Go get changed and I'll see you all on ground beta in 20 minutes. All of the girls found themselves inside of the changing rooms yet again, but this time they were all very excited because this is the very first time they get to see their very hero costumes and their very first day of hero training. Amaya's costume consists of pale green cargo pants, white tank top, white fingerless combat gloves and white combat boots. After Amaya got changed and left her normal uniform inside of her locker, Amaya grabbed a scrunchie and pulled her bicolored hair into a high kinda messy ponytail. Tara, I love your costume, it looks so comfy. Mine is a little bit more skin tight than I thought it'll be, Uraraka said, approaching Amaya. Oh thanks Uraraka, I really like your costume too, it's really giving stylish astronaut. Amaya complimented the girl back. One compliment led to another, and suddenly all of the Class 1A girls were discussing their hero costumes. This discussion really helped all of the girls to bond a little bit more. Despite having loved the bonding moment with the other girls, not having a normal childhood really affected Amaya. Said girl, getting easily overwhelmed, slowly stopped engaging that much in the conversation, hoping no one notices. Unfortunately for her, someone did notice. A certain pink-haired girl who Amaya grew a little bit closer to in these 2 days of class. Not wanting to expose the other girl in front of the others, Mina decided to check on Amaya whenever they all left the changing rooms to go to ground beta. So in less than 5 minutes, all of the girls were heading towards the training grounds for their very first heroics class. Amaya and Mina were walking side by side, so seizing the opportunity to check on her friend, Mina spoke up rather quietly. "Hey Tara, is everything alright? You were quieter than usual back at the changing rooms." Yeah, everything's good, just too many people talking at once," Amaya responded, not quite with the truth but not a lie either. That being said, Mina and Amaya continued to walk together, small talk emerging between the two friends until they arrived at ground beta, where All Might and some of their other peers were already waiting for the rest to arrive. Suddenly a red-haired boy with shark-like teeth, who Amaya believes is called Kirishima, approaches both girls. "Ah, Kirishima, I see you went for a revealing costume," Mina stated in her usual cheery voice. "Is it that revealing because of your quirk, or you just flexing?" She finished her sentence before Kirishima could reply. "It's because of my quirk, flexing is not manly at all," the red-headed boy replied. "Both your costumes look pretty manly. I feel like they suit you both," Kirishima added. "Thank you," both Amaya and Mina replied. Before the trio could continue their conversation, they hear All Might speak. "Ha! You all young aspiring heroes look really heroic with your costumes on." Yet before he could continue, Amaya noticed All Might's gaze drift towards something or someone at the very back of the group of students, so being rather curious about what had caught the attention of the number one hero. Craning her head towards the back as discreetly as she could, her eyes caught sight of Midoriya. The boy was wearing a costume that didn't seem like it was made by UA manufacturers, and to make matters worse, Midoriya's costume had a rather obvious resemblance to All Might's persona. Amaya stifled a giggle that threatened to escape her lips. And don't get her wrong, she's not laughing at how Midoriya's costume looks, her laughter being more or an endearing type of laugh due to the greenette's not-so-low-key obsession with the hero. Amaya's train of thoughts was cut short though, because All Might seemed to regain his composure and continued to explain the activity of today. For today's training, you'll be engaging in mock battles. 2v2. Heroes versus villains. All Might continued before being interrupted yet again by Ida's strict voice. "But how are we going to decide the teams?" the raven-haired boy asked while doing the usual chopping motions with his hands. "Good question, young Ida. The teams will be drawn randomly," All Might replied, kind of fed up from all of the interruptions. "Won't that be an impractical thing to do? How can we ensure the teams will be able to strategize? We don't even know our quirks that well," Ida fired back, and not gonna lie, Amaya was starting to get annoyed by Ida's constant questioning. I mean, if we view this situation realistically, it makes sense we get paired up randomly. Usually heroes team up on the spot, so we gotta get used to it. "Oh sweet," Midoriya interrupted, successfully shutting Ida up. "That's right, young Midoriya. Now, let's draw the team so we can get started," All Might said. "Team A, Izuku Midoriya Achiko Uraraka. Team B, Shoto Todoroki Mizo Shoji. Team C, Momo Yaoyorozu Tenya Ida. Team D, Katsuki Bakugo Amaya Tera. Team Mina Ishido Yuga Aoyama. Team F, Rikido Sato Koji Koda. Team G, Denki Kaminari Kyoka Jiro. Team H, Fumikage Tokoyami Tsuyu Ajui. Team I, Toru Hagakure Mashireo Ojiro. Team J, Hanta Siro Ijiro Kirishima. Here's a little bit of extra information about the mock battles. The villains have hidden a nuclear weapon inside of the building, and the heroes have to capture both villains and secure the weapon. In the case villains manage to capture the heroes or the heroes run out of time, villain team wins. After pairs were drawn, All Might continued to explain the lesson. Now, you all may be wondering why the first mock battle you'll be doing is indoors. And the answer is easy. Of course, as pros you may encounter villains committing felonies outdoors, but it is more probable to face villains indoors, All Might lectured. It is also very important for you young heroes to learn to control your quirks. That being said, the first two teams to face each other are Team A and Team D. Team D will act as villains and Team A as the heroes. Young Bakugo, young Terra, take your respective earpieces and head inside the building. The hero team will go inside too in a few minutes. All Might said, handing Amaya and Bakugo the earpieces. So, what's our strategy gonna be? Amaya started hesitantly, already expecting some kind of aggressive response from the ash blonde walking slightly ahead of her. Not receiving any reply, Amaya continued to walk in the direction of the room where the faux nuclear weapon is. Okay, you Dmed Extra, you stay here and guard the weapon while I destroy stupid Deku's butt. Got it? The blonde finally talks to Amaya. You sure you don't want me to help you capture Uraraka and Midoriya? The girl asks. Midoriya is a rather powerful opponent with that strength-enhancing quirk, although he can only use it once before being rendered useless, Amaya pondered before being interrupted. Are you underestimating me, you Dmed Gardener? Do you think that useless nerd is better than me? Who does he think he is? Making a fool of me by making me think he was quirkless. I'll kick his butt and prove to him that despite him tricking me, I'm still ahead of him. Bakugo barked aggressively before leaving a stunned Amaya with the weapon dummy. The F just happened? Anyways, since Bakugo left me, I've gotta strategize by myself, Amaya started thinking out loud. So, by what Bakugo said, he'll be dealing with Midoriya, so considering he'll be too busy beating Midoriya up, Uraraka will be the one coming to secure the weapon. Therefore I gotta get rid of every piece of furniture inside the room so Uraraka can't use her quirk. Amaya started to mutter before getting her plan started. While Amaya was busy removing furniture and growing metallized vines as a form of barrier, Bakugo was looking for the hero team. As Midoriya and Uraraka were walking inside of the building looking for Bakugo and Amaya, Midoriya spoke up, "Listen Uraraka, I think Kaken might be looking for me right now, so as soon as we encounter him, I want you to go look for the weapon while I stall him," he said with a hint of nervousness in his voice. At the end of the day, Midoriya knew how powerful Bakugo is. Are you sure, Deku? I don't think Bakugo will take it easy on you, Uraraka replied, a bit worried. And before Midoriya could say something else, Bakugo appeared, launching an explosion towards the hero pair. Sensing that, Midoriya grabbed Uraraka's arm and got them both out of the way. Giving the heroes no time to actually think on how to counterattack, Bakugo launched towards Midoriya, but the latter intercepted the punch, catching Bakugo by surprise. You always start your fights with a right hook. I've analyzed your fighting style enough to notice it, Midoriya said in a random bravery moment before Bakugo started attacking again. Bakugo, being so caught up in his beef with Midoriya, did not notice Uraraka making a run in an attempt to get to the weapon, not knowing what Amaya had been doing all this time along. It took the girl some time, but she finally found the room where Amaya was waiting for her to arrive. Uraraka was actually impressed by Amaya's strategy to build a barricade with vines, but she was still able to get through them thanks to the spaces left in between vines. Not wanting Amaya to know she had found her, Uraraka hid behind a column in order to wait for Midoriya. Uraraka tried to strategize, but Amaya's out-loud thinking made it very hard for the zero-gravity quirk wielder to stifle her laughter, so after a while of trying to contain her laughter, she accidentally giggles, revealing her location to the villain. Uraraka, I know you're there. I heard you laughing. Uraraka heard Amaya sing-song. Having no other option than to fight, Uraraka finally left her spot behind the column and faced her rival. Before any of them could engage into actual combat, Uraraka heard Midoriya's voice through her earpiece. Uraraka, this is a really risky plan, but it's the only way I could find for us to win. When I tell you to run as fast as you can towards the weapon and use your quirk on it to make it float. It was all she heard before explosion sounds filled her earpiece. Not knowing about this plan, Amaya had already grown some vines around her arms in an attempt of trying to capture Uraraka when all of a sudden the floor literally collapsed beneath her feet. Obviously not wanting to end up with a broken back due to the fall, Amaya grew the vines around her arms more so she could wrap them around a column. Thanks to this, the weapon was left behind, and when Amaya directed her gaze towards it, Uraraka was already latched onto the nuclear weapon dummy, giving the hero team the win. The 3 students that sustained no injuries walked out of what was left of the building, and since Midoriya utilized his quirk he ended up with some severe injuries, thus being carried to Recovery Girl's office. Seeing this, Amaya was quick to worry over the boy, so she asked All Might for permission to go with him to the infirmary. Due to Amaya leaving Ground Beta, she failed to hear All Might naming her the MVP of the trial and also missed the rest of her classmates' battles, but she didn't really mind. Her worry over who she could call a friend was greater. Recovery Girl had to reassure the girl over the unconscious boy's well-being. School day had already finished, Bakugo quickly left, still annoyed about him losing, and after about 5 minutes later Midoriya finally walked into the almost empty classroom, seeing the boy with nothing more than a sling around his arm. Amaya, along with some of her remaining classmates, asked the boy if he was feeling okay, to which he reassured he did feel good, just a bit tired. Guys, where is Kakin? I wanted to talk to him, Midoriya asked a bit nervously. Oh, Bakugo left as soon as the lecture finished, Amaya replied, and before she could say anything else the green-haired boy bolted outside of the classroom to try and catch up with the fuming ash-blonde boy. Deciding not to follow the boy, Amaya opted to just finish packing her stuff and go look for Aizawa so they can walk home together, so the girl failed to see the interaction between Midoriya, Bakugo, and All Might. Word count 25-26 chapter text. The next day Amaya and Midoriya were walking to campus together yet again since Aizawa was starting to leave earlier to advance on grading papers or class planning. Before both teenagers could even set a foot inside of school grounds, they were immediately hoarded by reporters who asked them about how good All Might was as a teacher. Both students ended up holding hands to avoid getting separated while trying to get through the press, anxiety obviously creeping up and both of them unaware of the other's blushing cheeks. Midoriya foolishly tried to answer to a reporter before being aggressively yanked away by a visibly anxious Amaya. Midoriya, let's go, we don't have time to give statements, her voice barely a whisper, yet it still trembled slightly. Amaya was about to have a panic attack and Midoriya noticed it, so when Mr. Aizawa and Present Mike burst outside to scare away the press, both teens felt immediate relief wash over them. When Amaya felt Aizawa pulling her and Midoriya to a less crowded area while Present Mike dealt with the press, she almost launched herself towards the older man but remembered they were still in school, so she decided against it. Midoriya, Tara, go to class, I'll be there shortly to start homeroom, Aizawa told both his students. The walk in the direction of their class consisted of Midoriya attempting to comfort Amaya since it was a bit obvious she was really shaken from being in between the huge crowd of reporters. About 30 minutes later Aizawa waltzed into the classroom with a clipboard in hand. Yesterday I saw the recordings of your battle training. Bakugo, you have potential, so stop sulking like a 5-year-old, and Midoriya, you managed to break your arm yet again, cut the I can't control my quirk excuse, it's getting old, Mr. Aizawa said quite harshly to both boys. Curious to see the boys' reactions to this, Amaya turned around in her seat, being met with a scowling Bakugo and a determined Midoriya scribbling something in a busted-up notebook. Amaya making a mental note to ask him about that notebook at lunch. Moving on, today you guys have a very important task. Aizawa started. Is it another quirk test? The whole class interrupted, clearly afraid of having to do another quirk assessment. Today you'll have to choose your class representative, Aizawa said while picking up his yellow sleeping bag. After saying this, the whole class started to go on about how they should be chosen as class representatives. Thanks to all the commotion, Ida stood up rather violently before exclaiming, "Silence, everybody! The class representative's duty is to lead the rest of their peers. This role is to not be taken lightly. That's why I propose that we make a decision democratically." Ida's proposal just made everything a bit messy, eh? It is pretty obvious he proposed this to appear more mature so he gets voted to be class rep. Are you sure that's a good idea? We've only known each other for like 3 days, Azui says. Yeah, besides it's quite obvious everyone will just vote for themselves, Kirishima added. I'm aware of that. That's why whoever has the most votes is the most capable out of all of us, Ida countered before turning to Mr. Aizawa. What do you think, Mr. Aizawa? Do whatever you want, just make sure to choose before homeroom PRD ends, Aizawa said in a bored tone while zipping his sleeping bag and dropping to the floor to take a nap. The election results were written on the whiteboard by Mr. Aizawa. Midoriya, who received 3 votes, was quite shocked. How did I get 3 votes? The boy exclaimed. Which one of you idiots voted for him? Bakugo screamed, visibly mad at his rival's win. What? Did you really expect people to vote for you? Zero asked the Ash Blong. This only made him angrier. On the other side of the classroom, Ida seemed visibly upset. 0 votes? I knew it was a possibility, but I really wasn't expecting to actually happen, he muttered, a tiny bit upset. So you gave your vote to someone else, huh? Yaoyorozu asked, unimpressed. A trembling Midoriya and a calm Yaoyorozu stood in front of the class. So class rep is Midoriya and the deputy is Yaoyorozu, Aizawa said, still in his sleeping bag. Really? It's not a mistake. Midoriya was shaking badly as he questioned the results, making Yaoyorozu sigh in defeat. How'd this happen? Deciding to eat lunch with Midoriya, Uraraka and Ida instead of Mina, Kaminari, Kirishima, Zero and Bakugo. Amaya sat besides Midoriya and across from Uraraka, who sat besides Ida. Why is the cafeteria always so packed up? Uraraka asked curiously. It's because the support, business and general courses have the same lunchtime as us, Ida replied, and after that a whole different conversation emerged. Everyone at the table was invested in the conversation, except for one green-haired boy, and Amaya noticed it, so she decided to check up on him. Hey Midoriya, are you all right? You've been awfully quiet since lunch started, Amaya asked, getting not only the aforementioned but from Ida and Uraraka too. Yeah, it's just that I'm really worried about the whole class rep thing. I don't really think I'm qualified, Midoriya asked truthfully with a barely noticeable blush dusting his freckled cheeks. You sure are, Amaya and Uraraka said in all honesty. You'll be great, Ida added rather nonchalantly. This made Midoriya look up to meet Ida's form. Huh? He questioned. Well yeah, your quick thinking under stress will make you a good leader. At least that's why I voted for you, Ida said before continuing to eat his food. Wait, you were one of the 3? Midoriya asked, surprised. But didn't you want to be class rep, Ida? Uraraka questioned the boy sitting beside her. Yes, sure, but wanting a job and actually being qualified for it are 2 totally different things. At least that's what the Ida's Hero Agency believes, Ida responded honestly. Hold up, Ida, you said Family Hero Agency? Do you come from a hero family? Amaya asked, curious about the boy's background. Yeah, I come from a long dynasty of pro-heroes. Are any of you familiar with the pro-hero Ingenium? Ida questioned with a slight glint in his eyes. I know all about him. Midoriya started, opening his notebook on a page dedicated to a hero with a very similar suit to Ida's own hero costume. He's a super popular hero with 65 sidekicks working along with him in his agency at Tokyo. Don't tell me. Midoriya's hero rant was cut short by the sudden realization dawning on him. He's my eldest brother and I strive to become a hero like him. He is my role model. Ida said proudly. Unfortunately, the group's bonding moment came to an abrupt stop thanks to Yu's alarm blaring through the cafeteria. Warning. Level 3 security breach. Please evacuate the building in an orderly fashion. At the announcement, everyone inside of the cafeteria stood up. What's a level 3 security breach? Amaya asked to no one in particular. It means someone was able to get past the school's security barrier. A boy who Amaya could guess is an upperclassman responded. Chaos erupted in the hallways of UA. Students were panicking. Screaming was heard everywhere. Students were pushing each other in an attempt to exit the school. Just like what happened in the morning, Amaya and Midoriya held hands in an attempt to stay together in the unwavering chaos of panic after both of them lost Ida and Uraraka in the crowd. In the panicked frenzy, everyone but Ida, who had been pushed against a window, failed to realize that the break-in was caused by the press, everyone in the hallway only realizing this after Ida floated to the top of the emergency exit thanks to Uraraka's quirk and explained the situation. Successfully managing to calm everyone, and students slowly dissipated the halls towards their classrooms since classes were resuming soon. I just wanted to make an announcement. I believe Ida should be our class rep. The way he managed to calm everyone down back in the hallway really showcases how qualified he is to be our leader. This is if he accepts the role, of course. Midoriya announced as he stood in front of everyone, leaving Ida at a loss of words. You know what? If Midoriya vouches for him, I have no issue with the change, plus he really helped. You all saw how he manned up and took charge. Kirishima spoke up, "This is a waste of time." Aizawa emerged from God knows where in his infamous yellow sleeping bag. "I don't care who the class rep is, just hurry up," he continued, successfully scaring Midoriya. After this, Ida slowly stood up from his seat, arm raised, and spoke up, "Well, if Midoriya is nominating me for the job, then I humbly accept to carry the duties of class rep to the best of my abilities." Midoriya smiled happily, being able to make a friend happy and at the same time liberating himself from the responsibility of leading his class, and soon went back to his seat. After all of this, Mr. Aizawa dismissed his class and Amaya walked outside of school grounds alongside Mina, Kirishima, Kaminari, Denki, and Siro. The whole walk consisted of the boys talking about how cool emergency exit Ida had been during the security breach. Late at night in the Aizawa residency, Amaya's sleeping form was cuddling Aizawa's cat Pepper. The young girl was extremely exhausted from the events that took place during the day. Unfortunately, her tranquil slumber had come to an end, her dreamless sleep taking a 180-degree turn thanks to a triggering memory from her subconscious. The memory unleashing a chain reaction of memories from her days at the laboratory. The constant blood drawn for drops with tranquilizers whenever Amaya got too difficult to deal with, the overuse of her quirk, the starvation, all still deeply engraved into her mind. The day she was saved from that hell might have been the happiest day of her life. "Amaya, stop this nonsense now, will you? It'll hurt more if you keep on resisting. You know what'll happen if you continue to misbehave," a masked man whose identity was always a mystery for Amaya said sternly, already reaching for a catheter. "And no, please don't, everything hurts, just, no more please," a younger version of Amaya cried out in a tiny voice, yet laced with an amount of pain no kid's voice should carry. The man signaled two other masked men to help him restrain the malnourished girl. Under different circumstances, Amaya would have submitted and simply cry silently, but she was so tired of this crappy confined life she was forced to live that as soon as the men reached for both her arms, she lost it. Amaya ducked as a way to avoid the men from getting a hold of her. "Ugh, how can you two idiots let an 11-year-old mock you like that?" The man who Amaya could assume was the boss said annoyedly. Embarrassed, both men started to approach Amaya, ready to use their quirks as a way to overpower her. But the young girl was dealing with so much negative emotions at the moment that her own quirk went feral. As soon as the first man tried to attack her, metallic wild briars and crown of thorns started to engulf the laboratory at a rapid pace. Unfortunately for Amaya, this outburst lasted maybe 2 minutes, and after this her quirk stopped. No new plants grew, but the old ones remained. Weakened from this explosion of power, Amaya collapsed onto the floor, still conscious but with no strength to stay on her feet, her exhaustion so strong that she didn't even notice the black-suited hero that bursted inside the laboratory. Suddenly becoming aware of the grunts echoing in the room, Amaya turned towards the noise. She was horrified at the sight of yellow goggles shattered on the ground and a black-suited man laying in a pool of crimson, several limbs twisted in uncanny angles. After this, Amaya's world turned black just to immediately jolt awake, drenched in sweat and wheezing in a desperate attempt to catch her breath. Pepper hissing after his sleep was cut short by Amaya's movement. As she started to calm down, Amaya reached out for Pepper and hugged him as if to remind herself she's safe and that whatever happened was a horrible nightmare, anxiety gnawing at her. This was the first time her nightmares distorted what actually happened to her. Aizawa's beaten-up figure, which is now permanently engraved in her mind, scared any and all drowsiness she might have felt when she woke up. So that's how Amaya spent the next 4 hours, wide awake and clinging onto Pepper as if it were her lifeline. Worried that Amaya hadn't come downstairs yet, Aizawa marched lazily to her room, the man assuming the girl had overslept, but he was greeted with a heartbreaking sight. The girl was sitting on her bed, legs dangling from the edge of the bed, bags under her eyes, and Pepper sleeping in her lap. "Maya, is everything all right?" Aizawa questioned her worriedly, his worry increasing exponentially when he received no answer. Deciding that approaching her would be a better idea, Aizawa invited himself into the room and crouched in front of her. Placing a hand on her knee, he called out for her softly, "Hey kiddo, you good?" This seemed to snap Amaya from her daze as she responded with a voice so small it made the man's heart clench. "No, I had this nightmare and I couldn't go back to sleep. Want to talk about it? Aizawa asked, knowing that talking about her nightmares usually helped with the panic that accompanied them. Amaya really wanted to share with her guardian what happened in her night terror, but the mere fact of remembering the event made the girl hyperventilate. Obviously sensing how worked up Amaya was about whatever she dreamt, he began to guide her through the panic attack before it escalated into a full-on meltdown. It took quite a bit, but Aizawa managed to calm Amaya. After this agitated morning, both of them made it to UA on time. Aizawa had insisted on Amaya staying home so she could catch up on her sleep, but the girl fought against the suggestion. Okay class, today's training will be a little different. You'll have 3 instructors, me, All Might, and another faculty member will be keeping tabs on you. Aizawa began to explain today's activity. Class 1A audibly gasped in wonder of what they were going to do today that required 3 pros present. Siro was the first student actually voicing the class's thoughts. What kind of training are we doing today? He asked. At this, Aizawa simply said, rescue. You'll be dealing with natural disasters, shipwrecks and stuff like that. The classroom's initial shock was now replaced with enthusiasm at the thought of doing something different, challenging even, but not everyone was so happy with this news. Amaya internally groaned at the fact that she'll be up to some exhausting workout, instantly regretting not taking the option to stay home and rest. Guys, I'm not finished yet. Aizawa's voice cut through the excitement of the heroes in training. What you wear today is up to you. I know you're excited about costumes, but keep in mind you're not used to them just yet and they might limit your abilities. Aizawa said as he grabbed the remote that deployed their suitcases containing everyone's costumes. Today's training will be at an off-campus facility, so we'll be taking a bus to get there. That's all, start getting ready, was all Aizawa said before walking out the room. After Aizawa left, everyone started to get up from their seats to grab their costumes and go and change at the changing rooms. All of the girls were inside the changing rooms, stripping off their regular school uniform and into their hero costumes. Inside of the bus, Amaya sat beside Mina after the pink-skinned girl gestured to sit with her. As the bus began to fill up gradually, hell broke loose, everyone talking, sharing their expectations on rescue training, before drifting to their quirks and which were the most eye-catching. Amaya was starting to doze off, the lack of sleep finally kicking in. But just as she was about to enter dreamland, she heard Azui saying something that could only mean hell breaking loose. Bakugo is always angry, so he'll never be that popular, and Amaya was right, hell broke loose. What did you say? I'll kick your butt? Bakugo exclaimed, almost offended by Azui's statement. As if she had just proven a point, Azui pointed her thumb towards Bakugo before saying, you see? Before anyone could say something else, Amaya heard Kaminari's voice. We basically just met you, so it's kind of telling that we all know your personality is flaming crap mixed with garbage. Kaminari's statement almost made Bakugo explode for a second time in less than 5 minutes. But thankfully before this could happen, Aizawa emerged from the very front of the bus to inform everyone they had arrived at the training facility. The discussion was long forgotten as they got off the bus one by one and began walking towards the main entrance of the facility, where a person in an astronaut suit, who Amaya supposed was a pro-hero, greeted them. Hello everyone, I've been waiting for you, the pro-hero said, and after this Amaya could practically feel Midoriya's energy spike. The boy was so excited he didn't even think twice before info-dumping all he knew about the hero to Amaya. It's the Space Hero 13. The chivalrous pro who's rescued a ton of people from disasters across the world. Amaya was not surprised by the boy's outburst. What surprised her was the sight of Uraraka beaming. The girl was obviously excited about working alongside 13, who apparently was the zero-gravity wielder's favorite hero. I can't wait to show you what's inside, 13 said, guiding the young aspiring heroes inside. While heading towards the central plaza, both Aizawa and 13 could hear the gasps of awe of the aspiring heroes, the teens obviously impressed by the sight of the rescue training facility. Holy crap! This looks like some kind of amusement park. Amaya heard Kirishima say, his voice carrying a bunch of excitement. A shipwreck, a landslide, a fire, a windstorm, etc. I created this training facility to prepare you to deal with different types of disasters. I called it the Unforeseen Simulation Joint, but you can call it USJ. Everyone remained quiet as they heard 13, but God, they were taken aback at the acronym 13 calls the facility. Amidst their shock, Amaya didn't even realize she spoke her thoughts out loud. So, like Universal Studios Japan? The whole class laughed at Amaya's uncalled statement that surprisingly matched everyone's thoughts. Hey, shouldn't All Might be here already? Aizawa started as he approached 13. Don't tell me. He booked an interview instead, the teacher said, rather annoyed. At this statement 13 responded with a hint of worry in his voice. Actually, it's something else. Apparently he did too much hero work on his way to school and used all of his power. He's resting in the teacher's lounge, 13 said as low as possible, trying not to reveal the number one hero's secret. That man is the height of irresponsibility, Aizawa said, quite surprised but definitely not disappointed. Well, time's ticking, we should get started, he said before 13 interrupted him. You're right. But before starting I got one thing to say. Or maybe 2 or 3 or 4. 13 began to ramble before regaining his composure. I think you're all aware that I have a powerful quirk, it's called black hole. I can basically absorb anything and turn it into dust, 13 started before getting interrupted by Midoriya. Yeah, you've used black hole to save countless people before, right? At his blatant interruption, Amaya, who was still standing beside the boy, smacked him in the arm. Not really minding the interruption but still grateful for Amaya's involvement, 13 continued. You're right. But my quirk can also really easily be used to kill. At this the whole class froze in shock. Some of you also have powers that can be dangerous. In our society all quirks are rigorously registered to know how unsafe they can be, so don't forget that if you lose your cool, your powers can easily be deadly even if you're trying to do something virtuous as rescuing someone. Thanks to Aizawa's fitness tests you're now conscious of how powerful your quirks are. And thanks to All Might's battle training you now know how dangerous those quirks can be when fighting against a human being. At this Amaya was at a loss of words, 13's words hitting her like a truck, reminding her of her past and how often she lost control over her quirk and how someone was always hurt after these outbursts. Midoriya, who was also deep in thought, felt Amaya stiffening beside him, so being a good friend he leaned towards her slightly and asked if everything was okay. Startled, Amaya flinched slightly at Midoriya's voice interrupting her train of thoughts, and thanks to Midoriya's closeness to her face, when she turned to face him their faces were inches away. Before Amaya fully registered Midoriya's flushed face he backed away. Midoriya wholeheartedly hoped no one saw that awkward interaction. Unfortunately luck was not on his side at that moment. A slightly jealous Uraraka saw their interaction and she sure as hell saw Midoriya's red face. Remember, today you won't be using your powers against others. You'll be using those powers to rescue people, which is what being a hero is all about. 13 finalized his speech, bringing Midoriya back to Earth. Aizawa was about to add something else to 13's explanation, but was interrupted by the lights of the facility turning off. Suddenly a rustling sound was heard, making everyone turn the other way. That's when they saw something that resembled a black hole from where a sickly pale hand emerged. Knowing better than to hesitate, Aizawa quickly instructed his students to stay back. 13 protect the students. Amaya's whole body froze, a familiar bone-chilling sensation traveled through her whole body and a familiar fear struck her. Until she heard Kirishima's slightly quivering voice, "What is that thing? Has the training started already? I thought we were doing rescue training." Several of her classmates took a hesitant step forward, foolishly believing the evident villain intrusion was their training. Thankfully Aizawa's stern voice stopped them as he once again told his students to stay back, making several of them flinch. Amaya and Midoriya turned to face Mr. Aizawa, seeing him fetch his goggles from under his capture weapon. This is real, those are real villains. At their teacher's reality check, fear finally caught up to them, realizing they were the ones endangered. As more villains kept walking out from the Warp Gate villain, a voice was heard, "The only heroes I see here are Eraserhead and 13. According to the schedule we retrieved, All Might should also be here." At this, Amaya, still in her panic-induced state, understood the villains came here for All Might, and it seems like Aizawa did too. "So you scumbags used the press's coverage to break into Udata. I can't believe All Might isn't here. What was the point of bringing all of these friends who want to meet him? All Might, the #1 hero, the symbol of peace. Maybe if we kill a few kids he'll appear, a scrawny-looking villain covered in hands monologued as a ton villains began to disperse around the USJ Central Plaza. What? Real villains? How could so many of them break into it? A facility? Kirishima was the first to break free of the panicked state everyone seemed to be. Yeah, 13, why aren't the alarms going off? Yaoyorozu asked the pro-hero. I don't know, but that's a really good question, 13 responded worriedly. Is the whole campus under attack? Or is this their only target? Todoroki spoke up for the very first time since the school year began, shocking Amaya. Either way, if the alarms are not going off, then one of these villains must have a quirk that's masking their presence. They're fools for trespassing, but they thought this out, Todoroki continued. Amaya saw Mina near her, so she instantly clinged to her arm, seeking comfort she knew she could find in her newfound friend. 13, get them out of here, and alert the main campus, Aizawa said, getting into an offensive stance, obviously planning on facing the villains on his own. This making Amaya begin to hyperventilate, her nightmare still fresh in her mind, making her scared of her guardian getting hurt just like in her dream. Sensing the girl's discomfort, Mina wrapped her arms around Amaya to comfort her silently. Actually, if they were able to get here without triggering any alarm, then they're probably jamming our usual communication line. Kaminari, try to use your quirk to alert the main campus, Aizawa reasoned. Yes, sir. Kaminari said as he began to try and contact the school. But sir, what are you gonna do? You can't fight them on your own. Even if you can nullify their quirks, there are still too many of them. Your fighting style is not suited for this. Your power works better in stealth and 1v1 fights, Midoriya stated, worried over his teacher's well-being. You can't be a pro if you only have one trick. I'll leave it to you, 13-inch Aizawa said before jumping into action. Goggles on, capturing weapon in hand, Aizawa dove to the fight to buy 13 time to get the students outside and call for backup. The thugs, failing to recognize the pro-hero, suddenly felt really confident about winning the fight. At the end of the day, it was one random man against hundreds of them. Unfortunately, before many of them could attack Eraserhead with their quirks, he activated his in order to render them powerless. Taking advantage of the thugs' guard being down, Eraserhead used his capture weapon to knock them down by hitting them against each other. Some other thugs quickly recognized him and his quirk. Still trying to take Eraserhead down, a heteromorphic villain launched directly towards the pro in an attempt to hit him. But his tries were useless, since Eraserhead was dodging all of his attacks. Seeing an entrance, Eraser punched the villain in the face, making him stumble, before Eraserhead reached him with his capture weapon to knock him down to the ground. He did all of this while dodging other thugs' attacks and monologuing about how they're all only dangerous if they're able to get close to him. Seeing her guardian fight the multitude of villains without any struggle, Amaya relaxed enough that she could think clearly again. Following 13's orders, she along with her peers ran towards the exit, only to be blocked by the warp villain. It is a pleasure to meet you. We're the League of Villains. I know it's impolite, but we decided to invite ourselves inside this heaven of justice to say hello. Besides, isn't this a fitting place for All Might to take his last breath? This made everyone panic again. If they talked about this plan with such security, it meant they were confident about being able to kill All Might. I believe he was supposed to be here today, yet I see no sign of him. There must have been a change in plans. In the end, it doesn't matter, I still have a role to play, the villain said as his warping mist expanded, beginning to surround them. Yet, before 13 could do something, Amaya saw Kirishima and Bakugo jumping towards the villain. Amaya couldn't see what they did, thanks to a cloud of smoke courtesy of Bakugo's explosions, making it impossible to see. You really thought we would back down and let you guys destroy this place? Amaya heard Kirishima through the smoke. You really live up to your school's reputation. But you should be more careful, kids, or someone might end up getting hurt. The villain's deep voice resonated again, surprising everyone. You too, come back here. 13 exclaimed, alarmed by the reckless duo's safety. Just as 13 said that, the warping mist expanded violently, surrounding them all. I'll scatter you all across this facility and you'll meet my colleagues. And your deaths, the mist finally said. Crap. What is this? Kirishima exclaimed worriedly. Thanks to the rapid speed at which the warp expanded, Mina and Amaya let go of each other to cover their eyes from the speeding winds. Suddenly, Amaya stopped feeling ground underneath her feet, making her panic. Opening her eyes to see what was going on, she saw the shipwreck zone a few meters under her and an equally panicked Midoriya. Having no time to think about something, Midoriya and Amaya were free falling to the ocean. Amaya was bracing herself for the impact, already holding her breath to stop herself from drowning. A few seconds before impacting the ocean, she felt Midoriya wrapping his arms around her to avoid getting separated. The ice-cold water surrounding Amaya have her yet another reality check. Separating herself from Midoriya, she quickly pointed towards the surface, indicating they should swim towards the surface. Less than a minute after they started their journey to the surface, Midoriya and Amaya saw a villain who probably has a quirk that gave him an advantage underwater. It took everything in Amaya to not freeze in panic once again. Seeing as the villain was approaching rapidly, Amaya did what she thought was the best. She created a water lily and, taking advantage of all the negativity she's been feeling today, she metalized it in less than a second, throwing the metal water lily towards the villain to make some distance between them. Just a second after this, Amaya saw Azui swimming towards them both, Taira, Midoriya, and before she could process what was happening, she felt Midoriya impact against her back and Azui's tongue wrapping around both of them, guiding both of them to the surface. Amaya was having a really hard time holding her breath any longer. Thankfully, she felt Azui launching her and Midoriya on a boat. The moment both teens were able to breathe properly, Amaya felt the adrenaline she had been feeling beginning to dissipate. Azui, you saved our lives. Midoriya began the moment he saw the frog quirk wielder climbing onto the boat. I told you to call me Tsu, she said, as if she hadn't just saved their lives. After executing a rather risky plan thought up by Midoriya, the trio managed to get safely to the shore of the shipwreck zone. Midoriya was muttering about how much of a gamble the plan was, and Tsu just stated how creeped out she was by the boys' muttering. Amaya saw how messed up Midoriya's fingers ended up after the Delaware smash he did to trap the villains in a whirlpool, so she grew a pair of peonies, separated the flowers from their stems, metalized the stems and grabbed Midoriya's wrist as delicately as she could. Taira, what are you doing? Midoriya said in a panic. Stop moving, you're gonna hurt yourself further, Amaya scolded as she used the metallic stems alongside some snake plant leaves to make an improvised splint and give Midoriya's fingers some support. Oh, thank you, Taira, Midoriya said truthfully. The trio began to walk closer to the shore, in the direction where Mr. Aizawa was fighting the big group of villains on his own. Their plan was to interfere just enough to help their teacher not to overexert himself, but not enough to put themselves in danger. The moment they arrived, they saw Mr. Aizawa handling the villains just fine. This made Amaya almost cry in relief, but her relief and her peers was short-lived as they saw the scrawny blue-haired villain, who they believed is the leader, rapidly approach the pro-hero with malicious intent. In the beginning, Aizawa seemed to be doing just fine, managing to dodge the villain's attacks and even managing to land some hits. Unfortunately, mid-fight, Aizawa's hair dropped, signaling he stopped nullifying the villain's quirk. In less than a second, Aizawa's elbow was decaying. At this, Amaya let out a choked gasp, the fear of her nightmare dawning on her once again. Rapidly noticing the girl's anxiety, Midoriya and Tsu tried to reassure her to no avail. Aizawa was quick to recover and continued to take down more villains. After taking down as much villains as possible, Aizawa was yet again face to face with the blue-haired villain. Look at you, you're still standing. You really are so cool, the villain fawned, taking the hidden trio aback. Oh, by the way, hero, the villain continued. The sudden silence made Aizawa look back, his jaw dropping at the sight of a massive bird-like creature with half of his brain exposed. I'm not the final boss, were the last words said by the villain before Aizawa was brutally attacked by the creature. Amaya felt her heart drop to her feet. The sight of that unknown creature pinning Aizawa's form down was gruesome. The way his face contorted in pain as the creature bent his already injured arm in an unnatural way. Amaya felt like dying, bow raising up her throat, heart pounding like crazy, shaky hands, breath shallowing. The creature continued to break Aizawa's bones while Amaya, Midoriya and Tsu just stared, the three of them in a deep state of shock. When the trio heard about the plan to retreat, they felt relief washing over them. Sadly, amidst the relief, they didn't notice the blue-haired villain had jumped in their direction. When they noticed it was almost too late, Amaya saw the villain's hand right in front of her face. Fortunately, as she felt his fingertips come into contact with her face and feeling nothing decaying, Amaya knew that this was Aizawa's doing. "Wow, you really are so cool, Eraserhead," the villain said as he turned around. And as he turned around, Amaya saw her guardian's bloodied face fighting against the creature's grasp to keep his head up and nullify the villain's quirk. Sadly, with Aizawa's weakened state, the creature was able to take him back down pretty easily. Seeing this, Amaya saw Midoriya jump towards the villain, using his quirk to punch him. Unfortunately, the bird-like creature stepped between Midoriya and the villain. Since the blow didn't seem to have affected the creature, the previous excitement of not breaking his arm disappeared. Just before any more catastrophes could happen, All Might arrived. Everyone was crying tears of relief as they heard All Might's catchphrase, "Fear not, students, because I am here," the #1 hero said, although this time, he was not wearing his usual smile. In less than a second, All Might had already managed to knock down a few thugs, grab Aizawa and rescue the trio. Amaya was really impressed with the #1's speed. "Run towards the entrance, and take Aizawa with you. He doesn't have much time," All Might instructed, worried about his students' well-being. Before beginning to walk towards the entrance, Amaya, Midoriya and Tsu crouched down to carry Mr. Aizawa with them. Midoriya also warned All Might about the Nomu's resistance to his punch. All Might found himself in a very complicated situation, and everyone could see that. Deciding to not be a coward anymore, Amaya let go of her guardian's arm and ran back towards the central plaza, oblivious to Midoriya hot in her heels. Midoriya went straight to attacking the warp villain, while Amaya decided it was best to try and restrain him. As she noticed the neck brace he was wearing, she concluded he must have a physical body hidden by the mist. Bakugo and Todoroki joined Midoriya and Amaya in the battle. Bakugo pushes Midoriya out of his way to also restrain the warp villain, and Todoroki freezes the Nomu. Seeing as Bakugo already had the warp villain pinned down, Amaya decided to help him by making thick metallic jungle vines emerge from the floor to secure him. Then Kirishima also appeared, trying to knock out the scrawny villain but failing miserably. Between Bakugo's palm and his neck and Amaya's vines keeping him down, the blue-haired villain called the warp villain out. "Kurodri, how could you let these two brats overpower you?" Hearing this, Bakugo began taunting Kurojiri in a not-so-heroic way. On the other side, the Nomu was able to free himself from Todoroki's ice. At this, Amaya called Todoroki out. "Hey Todoroki, at my signal freeze the ground again." Seeing Todoroki let out a grunt in agreement, Amaya made the same metallic thick vines emerge from the ground again, alongside some metallic crowns of thorns to ensure the Nomu will receive damage trying to break free. While doing this, Amaya instructed Todoroki to freeze the ground again, successfully trapping the Nomu in a more secure trap. This stalled the Nomu for a few minutes before he smashed his restraints again and rapidly sped in the direction of the students. Thanks to All Might's reflexes, they received no damage as he pushed them out of the way, taking the blow for them. "They're kids and you didn't hold back," All Might called out. "I had no choice, they were threatening my companions. Besides, these kids are no angels." "The plain-looking one? He tried to kill me with a maxed-out punch," the villain defended before going into a rant of how violence is justified when heroes are the one being violent. After this whole madness ended, the students were transported back to the main campus. Those who were injured headed to Recovery Girl's office. After Midoriya was cleared by Recovery Girl, he headed towards his classroom to get this stuff, only to be greeted by the sight of Amaya in her seat with her head nestled in between her arms. Her shoulders were shaking and loud sobs escaped her lips. Midoriya's heart clenched at the sight of someone who he considered a friend so distraught, so he decided to walk towards her and take a seat close to her. Placing a comforting hand on her head, he didn't really say anything. He just waited until Amaya calmed down. It took a long while for Amaya to calm down. At some point, both Midoriya and Amaya ended up sitting on the floor. Midoriya's arm wrapped around the girl's shoulder in a comforting manner. "So, you want to talk about it?" Midoriya began, quite nervous that the question would trigger another panic attack. The boy had no experience in comforting people through a panic attack, so the whole process was kinda messy. I was so worried during the whole attack, Amaya began, her voice still shaky, seeing Aizawa's beaten-up state. It was just like in my dream. Amaya admitted to dreaming of a similar situation to what happened today. Wait, you're telling me you dreamed of the attack? Midoriya was surprised. Not quite like today, but Aizawa did end up in a similar state, Amaya replied. After some time talking about various topics to distract Amaya from her panic attack, both teens decided it was time to go home. Midoriya was nice enough to walk with her, still reassuring her that their teacher will be all right, and Amaya kept on apologizing for stalling him on his way home. After all, he must have been pretty tired from all of the stamina his body used to heal the injuries he sustained. Amaya walked straight to her room to take a shower, make herself some food, and head towards the hospital to visit her guardian. In the end, the school gave them a one-day break to process everything that happened today. Despite knowing how dangerous it was to be walking towards the hospital alone with everything that happened today, Amaya found herself wandering the streets of Mizudafu, still slightly shaken from her previous panic attack despite it having occurred at least 2 hours ago. After what felt like an eternity, Amaya reached her destination. Walking inside the hospital, the young girl approached the receptionist's desk slowly. Amaya took a deep breath before mustering enough courage to ask, "Excuse me, in which room is Shota Aizawa in?" Hearing the small voice, the receptionist looked up from her computer and replied with a soft smile plastered on her face, "Aizawa? He's in the 7th floor, room 143". With this newfound information, Amaya walked towards the elevators. The moment Amaya walked into Aizawa's room, she felt her heart falling to her feet for the second time today. The sight of the man she's grown to care for, all bandaged from top to bottom, broke her heart. Not really knowing if the man was asleep or not, Amaya decided against calling out his name just in case he was resting. Sitting down on the sofa that was inside the room, Amaya fetched the book she stuffed inside her tote bag, as well as some food she prepared for herself before leaving home. Tired from all the crying she did today, Amaya fell asleep in a really awkward position. Amaya stayed like that for a long while, until a nurse who was there to check on Aizawa walked in. Seeing the young girl sleeping with no support on her head, the nurse laid her down as delicately as possible and covered her with a blanket. The next morning, Amaya was woken up by the sunlight hitting her face and the sound of people talking. Groaning in annoyment, Amaya got up from her laying position and saw Aizawa getting his bandages changed by a nurse who was explaining how he could take care of his injuries at home. "Aizawa, you're awake?" Amaya exclaimed happily. Getting up, the girl ran towards him and hugged him carefully to avoid hurting him further. Not being able to return the hug due to both his arms being in a cast, Aizawa spoke up, "You didn't have to stay here, kiddo, you gotta rest properly." Aizawa felt Amaya shaking her head. "I wanted to stay here. Seeing you all bloodied and beaten up made me worry about you a lot." Hearing her voice breaking, Aizawa wanting nothing more than to comfort her. "I was meant to get injured, I had to ensure you kids' safety." The man's voice came out slightly mumbled thanks to the bandages all over his face. After this, Amaya said nothing, only walked away to get a chair and placed it near Aizawa's hospital bed. Aizawa and Amaya talked for a long while, with Amaya helping Aizawa with whatever he could need assistance with. Suddenly, they both heard a knock on the door before a nurse walked with a tray containing pretty soft-looking foods. Leaving the tray on a little table that rested on top of Aizawa's bed, the nurse reminded the man that he was to be discharged in a few hours if the doctor authorized it. "I'll be right back, I'm gonna go buy some food for myself," Amaya informed. "Okay, I'll wait for you so we can eat together." Amaya almost laughed at his statement. "I mean, duh, you can't eat by yourself as of now." And before Aizawa could reprimand her, Amaya left the room. On her way to the hospital's cafeteria, Amaya got a little bit lost, her journey to get some food stretching more than she expected. The moment Amaya returned to Aizawa's room, she could hear Aizawa's voice reprimanding her. "What took you so long? I might not be able to see or grab a phone right now, but you took a little bit too much time." Surprised that the man recognized her without her needing to talk, Amaya simply replied that she got lost, making Aizawa chuckle. Luckily, Aizawa got discharged in the late afternoon, so both Aizawa and Amaya were able to spend some time home instead of at the antiseptic-filled hospital. After Amaya cooked dinner, she asked Aizawa who was Principal Nizu going to assign as their substitute homeroom teacher. While he recovered, to Amaya's surprise, Aizawa told her that he was going to continue working. Wait, what? You really believe you can continue giving classes in that state? Amaya was genuinely concerned by Aizawa's lack of self-care. I mean, yeah, who else is going to step in and teach you useless children how to become heroes? Besides, the sports fest is coming up, so I gotta train y'all. This reply made Amaya's worry mode turn into teasing mode. Aizawa, don't tell me you're already soft for us. The first day you come up like, I'll expel y'all useless pieces of shit. And now you don't want a substitute to teach us. If Aizawa were to be able to give the girl a knock on the head, he would do so, but with both arms in a cast he just stayed silent, hoping for Amaya's teasing mood to disappear. The following day, all of U.A's alumni were to resume activities, so against her will Amaya woke up earlier than usual so she could help Mummy Aizawa get ready. Getting off the Uber, they rode to school. Amaya and Aizawa headed towards the 1A classroom, neither of them really minding if they were seen arriving to class together. If any questions about their relationship were to arise, they would simply say Aizawa is Amaya's guardian, and that's it. Standing outside of the door, both Amaya and Aizawa heard the commotion inside the classroom. Ida telling everyone to take a seat since class was about to begin, only to be called out by Kirishima and Siro. Also Mina asking Tsu who she thinks will be imparting homeroom. This being said, Amaya opened the door to a morning class, said by Mummy Aizawa. As soon as her classmates saw Mr. Aizawa walking in with a slight limp, their jaws dropped. Honestly, a valid reaction. But their shock only seemed to increase when they all saw Amaya helping their teacher walk to the front. Mr. Aizawa, I'm glad you're okay, Amaya heard Ida say. Do you call that okay? Amaya and Uraraka both replied to the class rep's statement. My well-being is irrelevant. What's more important is that your fight isn't over yet. As Aizawa said this, Amaya walked towards her seat. Seeing her classmates' reaction to their teacher's statement was hilarious. Bakugo seemed interested, Midoriya was confused as F-, and Koda seemed like he was gonna sheet his pants out of fear. The Uda Sports Festival is about to start. At this, Kirishima was the most satisfied with the news. The rest of the class felt some kind of relief that it was just the sports festival and not fighting with villains. Let's go kick some butt. Kirishima started excitedly before being shut up by Kaminari practically shoving his head to the side. Wait a second, Kaminari started. Is it really a good idea to hold the sports festival so soon after villains practically snuck inside? Jiro reasoned. Yeah, they could attack when we're all in the same place, Ojiro continued. Releasing a sight, Aizawa spoke again. Apparently the administration believes this is a good way to show that the threat has been handled and our school is safer than ever. Plus, they're increasing security compared to past years. After a small pause, Aizawa continued, this event is a huge opportunity for all students in UA. It's not something we can cancel because of a few villains. Oh, excuses, moi-mais, why not? It's just a sports festival? Aoyama asked, his face painted with terror despite his usual bright and eccentric persona. Aoyama, don't you know how important this competition is? Midoriya questioned the French boy despite being on opposite sides of the classroom. Our sports festival is one of the most watched events in the world. In the past, everyone obsessed over the Olympic Games. Then quirks appeared and the Olympics got drastically reduced in terms of scale and viewership. To anyone that cares about sports and competition, the only thing that matters is the U.A Sports Festival. Aizawa finished his little speech. He's right, besides top heroes everywhere will be watching. This is where you'll get scouted. Yaoyorozu started making Aoyama sweat drop. The class's deputy reasoning led to Kaminari now being the one speaking up. Yeah, she's right. After graduating, a lot of people join pros agencies as sidekicks. Kaminari beamed as he said this, before Jiro practically destroyed him. Yeah, but that's as far as some people go. They miss their chance to go solo and stay as eternal sidekicks. Actually, maybe that's where you're headed. You're kinda dumb. Amaya could see her friend's mood dampened at the girl's hostility, making her feel kinda bad for Kaminari. It's true that joining a famous hero agency can assure you greater experience and popularity. That's why the festival matters. If you want to go pro one day, then this event can open a path for you. One chance a year, 3 chances total in a lifetime, no aspiring hero can afford to miss this festival. And that's why you better not slack in your training. As Aizawa finished, the whole class replied to him with a, "Yes, sir." Everyone is feeling confident and motivated to do their best. After this, Aizawa dismissed class and Amaya quickly stood up from her seat to help her guardian walk towards the teacher's lounge. Her weird behavior sparked confusion amongst her peers. Everyone was wondering why was Amaya helping their strict homeroom teacher to walk. Homeroom doesn't even count for their final grade, so the extra point farming theory got discarded. Amaya came back to the classroom just in time for her to start her morning classes. After what seemed like an eternity, the bell finally rang and with it modern literature class with Cementos came to an end. Everyone inside of the 1A classroom was still pretty pumped up about all the attention the media has been giving their class after the USJ attack and about the sports festival coming up. Naturally, everyone stayed inside the classroom talking amongst their friends about how excited they're about the festival. Joining her friend group conversation erupted almost instantaneously whatever happened at the USJ 2 days prior and how they felt about it, their very first sports festival, them planning to train together despite Bakugo refusing when Kaminari proposed the idea, etc. The conversation suddenly shifted from training to how they haven't had their very first hangout since they became friends. "Guys, we really should hang out someday this week. Maybe we could do it today, I don't know," Mina whined, resting her chin on Amaya's shoulder, the latter finding herself sitting between Mina's legs. "F off raccoon eyes, we ain't hanging out with the sports festival so close by, I gotta focus on training." Bakugo immediately turned down Mina's suggestion. "Come on man, loosen up a bit. Think about it as a stress reliever after everything that happened back at the USJ." Kirishima tried to reason with the ash blonde to seemingly no avail until Siro spoke. "Yeah, maybe we could go eat somewhere near campus then hang out at someone's house." This was a really good proposal, to which everyone agreed, even Bakugo after a lot of convincing. "Okay, but which house are we going to?" Kaminari asked, high-key thrilled to finally have the chance to hang out with his friends. "We could go to Bakugo's, his house is closer to campus so we could just walk instead of riding the train or something," Kirishima chimed in, a toothy grin plastered on his face. Yeah, whatever, just don't get used to it," Bakugo surprisingly didn't protest. With their hangout already decided, the conversation drifted off to different topics until a very familiar voice echoed through the classroom. "Deku, Ida, let's do our best at the sports festival," was all Amaya heard. Glancing back towards the voice, the girl saw a not-so-bubbly Uraraka and a mortified Midoriya and Ida. "Uraraka, what happened to your face?" Midoriya stuttered a little bit, scared of her friend's sudden dark aura. "Seriously, what's up? You're usually like the most laid-back girl ever," Mina chimed in from her spot with Amaya. "Everyone, I'm gonna do my best," Uraraka exclaimed with her fist raised as if to motivate everyone. Amaya, just like her peers, was at a loss for words at the girl's weird attitude. Why the heck are you all here?" Uraraka exclaimed in shock at the sight of their doorway being blocked by probably every single first-year student. "Do you students have any business with our class?" Ida asked politely but sternly as if to avoid any confrontation that could be caused. His attempts being cut short thanks to the oh-so-nice Bakugo. "They're scouting the competition, idiots. We're the class that survived a real villain attack. They want to see us with their own eyes." Hearing what Bakugo just said made a lot of sense, but the way he said it made them all look like egoistical maniacs. "At least now you know what a future pro looks like. Now move it, extras." The rest of Class A lost it. Bakugo's final sentence. Some scolded him, some tried to gentle parent him into realizing he can't go around saying that kind of stuff, but everything that was said fell onto deaf ears. "So this is Class 1A. I heard you guys were impressive, but you just sound like an butt." A guy with messy purple hair and prominent eye bags pushed through the crowd until he was at the very front of the classroom. "Is everyone in the hero course delusional? Or is it just you?" The guy continued, making Bakugo angrier, and the rest of the class shook their heads to try and deny the delusional's accusations. "It's sad to think I wanted to be in the hero course with you egomaniacs. Unfortunately, just like many other students, I was forced to choose another path. Luckily, if we perform good enough in the sports fest, teachers will consider transferring us into the hero course." This of course works both ways, people will be transferred out to make room. After a small pause, the purple-haired boy resumed his little monologue. I'm just here to tell you that if you're not careful, it'll steal your place right under your feet. Consider this a declaration of war. Thinking this was the end of it was kind of a naive thought. A boy from Class 1B also started to rant about how Class A was full of brats and more stuff like that. Once again the clamors fell on deaf ears as Bakugo was already making his way out, slightly pushing through the crowd. Slightly irritated by all the confrontation and consequently the noise, Amaya also walked towards the door in an attempt to leave, but Kirishima's hand landing on her shoulder stopped her. Before she could protest, the girl felt Kirishima leaning his weight onto her just as he called Bakugo out for making everyone hate their class. Bakugo couldn't care less about it, saying how no matter what he'll beat them all before turning on his heels and leaving for real. Taking advantage of this, Amaya walked out, also telling her classmates how they should really focus on doing their best instead of overthinking what others thought about them. Being now a few meters away from the war zone of a hallway, Amaya rushed towards Bakugo's side in an attempt to catch up to him. Bakugo. Wait, Amaya called for the blonde. What do you want? Bakugo hissed in slight annoyance. Didn't know you were a motivational speaker. Since when are you so wise? It's kinda out of character, you know? Amaya's eyes widened slightly as she ducked to avoid getting her face blasted. Learn how to take a joke, will you? Blasting people's faces is not nice, the girl teased further. As a result, Bakugo shoved his hand onto Amaya's face, making her laugh at how easy it is to annoy the blonde. A one-sided conversation emerged. Amaya was yapping Bakugo's ear off since he couldn't just head off towards his house. When the rest of the friend group managed to escape the classroom, they all walked to this ramen place that's relatively close to UA. The whole walk to the restaurant was spent goofing around, Mina, Kaminari, Shiro and Kirishima teasing Bakugo and Amaya for their dramatic exits back at school, and various more topics. At the restaurant, the group was quick to choose a table and order, already hungry despite having had lunch back in school a few hours prior. While waiting for their food to arrive, the group of teens were yet again goofing around and in general getting to know each other better. At the end of the day, they've only known each other for a few time. Actually, off topic, but Taira, what's with you and Mr. Aizawa? You've been helping him out a lot. Shiro randomly changed the topic with a question they've all been meaning to ask. Oh, that. Amaya got nervous, not really wanting to explain that their teacher is the closest thing she has to a father figure. He kinda is my legal guardian, she finally answered, hoping they don't ask more questions. Don't get Amaya wrong, she doesn't care if her friends know Aizawa is her guardian, but she doesn't want them knowing about her past. Nah girl, ain't no way. You live with Mr. Aizawa? How's it like? Mina was surprised to say the least, but still curious. The question made everyone laugh because what the actual F was that question? Mina what? Amaya definitely. Did not expect that but answered nonetheless. It really is nothing special, like he's just as stern as he is with us in class, just a bit more goofy sometimes I guess? Amaya doesn't know if this was the response they expected, but there's no use trying to lie. Honestly, idiots, what were you expecting? It's Mr. Aizawa, Bakugo stated with a small smirk painted across his face. But wait, Taira, does Mr. Aizawa own any other piece of clothing besides his hero costume? 'Cause he ain't letting that costume catch a break, Kirishima said, stifling a laugh. But more importantly, does he go to sleep in the Demed yellow sleeping bag? Kaminari added. Yeah, he surprisingly does have other clothes and he sometimes does sleep inside the sleeping bag. It honestly is such a random thing to see. The conversation was interrupted by their food being served. After the waitress left, they all resumed talking while eating. Yo, who found out about this place? 'Cause the food is low-key fire, Kaminari asked, almost drooling after taking the first bite out of his ramen. Probably Bakugo, his place ain't far away from here anyways, Shiro replied flatly, focused on enjoying his food. After everyone paid their tab, Bakugo began to guide them towards his house. The walk was really peaceful, Mina and Amaya interlocking hands sandwiched between the group of boys. When they arrived, Bakugo instructed them to leave their shoes at the doorway, followed by a loud scream, Old man, I'm home. Not mentioning he brought friends with him, left the rest of the squad in a very awkward situation since a screaming match ignited between Bakugo and his mom. You brat, how many times do I have to tell you to have a bit of respect for your parents? The woman's voice echoed through the house. The moment she popped up at the doorway, ready to knock some sense into his kid, Bakugo's mom saw who she inferred were his son's friends. Katsuki, you should have told us you were bringing friends home. I would have made more food, Bakugo's mom hissed, pulling her son's ear. Don't worry, Ms. Bakugo, we already ate. Amaya bowed politely. I'll call me Mitsuki. It would be really weird if there were 3 Bakugos home, Mitsuki asked gently. Besides, her mother Bakugo was fuming, the humiliation of his mom kinda embarrassing him, burning his insides. Katsuki, take your friends to your room. I'll take snacks for y'all in a while. Mitsuki slapped Bakugo gently, making everyone laugh. As they were about to go upstairs, the group saw Bakugo's dad. Hey kids, I'm Katsuki's dad Masaru. Please make yourselves at home. Masaru greeted them kindly before making his way to the kitchen to help his wife. The inside of Bakugo's room was really neat. A few All Might posters here and there, but overall very neat, with not a single item out of place. Scattering around the boys' room, they all made themselves home. Amaya, Mina and Bakugo took the bed, while Shiro, Kirishima and Kaminari found themselves plopping off at some puff cushions. Their whole afternoon was spent teasing each other or playing video games. Overall enjoying their school life so far, despite them already facing some traumatic experience back at the USJ attack and receiving the news about the sports festival and how important it was for their future careers. Late in the afternoon, when everybody left the Bakugo residency, the boys were walking the girls home. Luckily it was not that late, so it was safer, but according to Kirishima it wouldn't be manly at all to leave both girls alone. Amaya was the third one to be dropped off. Saying her goodbyes to Kirishima and Shiro, she headed inside her house, wanting nothing more than to go to sleep already. Aizawa, I'm home, Amaya exclaimed, taking her shoes off. Surprisingly, what she saw was Aizawa on the couch taking a nap. Knowing this is kind of a weird occurrence, the girl inferred the man visited Recovery Girl after classes. Deciding to let him rest, she covered Aizawa with a blanket, prepared dinner and went upstairs for a very deserved sleep. Already tucked in bed, Amaya was thinking about her off-character behavior today, the outgoingness and the sarcasm. She should feel proud of herself. Coming out of her shell today was an achievement, but behind all of her laughs, Amaya hid a great amount of pain. This was her way of avoiding her problems, hiding behind a jokester facade. Not the best way to cope, but it kept her sane. Days went by in a blur. Between training and keeping up with school, Amaya will crash out sooner or later. Every single day Amaya has been training, either alone or with friends, at the school's gym or somewhere else. All this just so she could at least get to the finals and make Aizawa proud, show him that all of the time he spent teaching her how to control her quirk was worth it. The sun was setting, yet Amaya still hasn't gone home. The girl had been at UA training with Kirishima, Uraraka, Mina and Aoyama. With Uraraka floating a ton of rocks and Amaya growing roots to grab rocks and throw them at Mina and Aoyama, who were destroying the makeshift projectiles. Later Amaya joined them into the defensive training, using metallic lily pads, dense moss and bamboo sticks to deflect attacks. To say the girl was tired is an understatement, using her quirk that long drained her energy and soured her mood a lot. But she wasn't ready to go home yet. Ceasing her training meant listening to the constant noise inside of her head, and overworking herself meant drowning that noise. So Amaya wandered without an actual destination in mind. After walking for at least 40 minutes, she arrived at a beach, not really wanting her shoes to get full of sand. Amaya was ready to turn on her heels and walk somewhere else, but ultimately decided against it. Walking near the shore, Amaya saw an unexpected someone warming up. Walking up to them, Amaya greeted, a hint of tiredness lacing her voice. Hey Midoriya, didn't expect to see you here, she said, dropping her backpack with her belongings in the sand. Tara, hi. I came here for a run. I didn't really want to get burnt, so I waited until the sundown. Midoriya was surprised to see his classmate here, but what surprised him more was the sight of her school backpack accompanying her. Wait, you just came out from school? Tara, it's like 6:30, you should really go home and rest. Amaya could hear the worry in his tone, but she wasn't interested in going home. She had to train. Yeah, I was training with Mina, Uraraka and Aoyama, though they left like 2 hours ago. I'm not really tired, so I was looking for somewhere calm where I could run for a while before going home. Amaya said, beginning some warm-up exercises. You do seem quite tired, Tara, but I'm not stopping you. Just take it easy. If you don't rest properly you won't be able to move tomorrow. Not wanting to upset the girl, Midoriya just decided to not stop her from this crazy training schedule. This being said, both teens continued to warm up before getting to jog. They settled into a pretty decent pace, none of them talking, just accompanying each other silently, letting the sound of the waves be the only sound existing between them. Amaya and Midoriya have been jogging for about 20 minutes until Amaya trips and can't find the strength to get back on her feet. Hearing a low thud, Midoriya turns to look for Amaya only to see her laying on the sand. Holding his hand to her, Midoriya cannot hide his worry for the girl. Tara, everything's good? You should go home and sleep, your muscles will hurt so bad tomorrow. Midoriya tried to lighten the mood, but his attempt seemed to fail since Amaya looked like she was about to burst into tears. Taking his hand, Amaya stood up shakily and dusted the sand off her clothes. Thanks, Amaya thanked him softly, feeling like she just embarrassed herself. She turned around with the intention of going to get her stuff and go home. Midoriya took a few minutes to process what just happened before bolting towards Amaya with the intention to walk her home. Neither his consciousness nor his mother would forgive him for letting a girl walk home alone. Tara, wait. I'll walk home with you. I too could take a break. That's the last thing Amaya actually heard Midoriya say. The walk back to where they left their belongings, Amaya was zoning out. The moment Amaya crouched to grab her backpack, another hand beat her to it. You don't have to carry my things, Amaya mumbled, head crestfallen, still embarrassed from her previous fall. I know, I'm doing it to help you, Midoriya responded kindly. The walk to Amaya's home was not that lively. The girl tried to muster a joke to relieve the tension, but she couldn't think of something appropriate to say, her head too much of a mess to force her funny self out. As they arrived, Midoriya accompanied her to the door and handed her backpack back to Amaya. You really didn't have to do it, but thanks for walking me home, Midoriya, the girl thanked. It's really nothing, I'm trying to be a good friend. After a small pause, Midoriya spoke again. You should eat lunch with me, Uraraka and Ida, tomorrow. Amaya accepted the proposal before giving him a quick hug and walked inside her home. Duh, Aizawa, I'm home, Amaya exclaimed tiredly, bag dropping to the floor. Aizawa walked down the stairs, mortified by the teen's absence through the whole week. You were at UA training, weren't you? Aizawa asked sharply. The question caught Amaya off guard. She knew Aizawa didn't like it when she overworked herself. Yeah, I stayed a bit late with Aoyama, Mina and Kirishima. Then bumped into Midoriya at the beach. Amaya rambled a bit, trying to minimize the ungodly amount of hours she spent training after school hours. Not being able to raise his hand slightly to indicate to the girl to quit her rambling session, Aizawa interrupted and asked her to follow him. Both of them now sat at the sofa and Amaya knew she was about to be lectured. You know you don't have to work this hard, right? Aizawa started softly as if he was scared Amaya would cry. Yeah, I know, Amaya started, fingers playing with the hem of her shirt, not being able to think of something else to say. Through the gaps in his facial bandages, Aizawa saw a tired Amaya. Remember, you don't have to prove yourself to anyone, whether you win or not the sports fest, no one's gonna judge you or think less of you. You're safe here. Amaya isn't aware of the tears running down her cheeks, Aizawa's very much needed words hitting a nerve. I know everything that's happened these last few days have been rough and you're reliving some not so good memories, but you don't have to pretend to be well. I've seen you slip that jokester mask on and how you're training nonstop. You're not alone anymore, you got me and your friends. By now Amaya is pretty much aware of her crying. She couldn't express how much she needed to hear those words. Knowing someone saw right through her made her feel seen and loved. What I mean is, it won't hurt you to take a break from time to time. Tomorrow I don't want you doing any extra training, okay? Aizawa's lecture finally came to an end with his heart shattering at the sight of Amaya breaking down so badly. Now I ordered takeout. Go eat something and go to sleep, please, Maya. Aizawa stood up and disappeared from the living room. Amaya, thinking he left to his room, tried to calm herself down. A few minutes late, Aizawa came back with a roll of toilet paper in between his bandaged arms. There, blow your nose and wipe the tears. I don't want you eating dinner with an aftertaste to snot. Amaya laughed through her tears at this statement. Thanks, she replied, grabbing the roll of paper and proceeded to blow her nose. After Amaya ate dinner, she and Aizawa went upstairs, Amaya going to her bedroom and Aizawa going to his makeshift office, probably to grade schoolwork. Amaya took a short bath and changed into her pajamas. Already lying in bed, Amaya couldn't help but to replay her conversations with Aizawa and Midoriya. Their worry made her heart ache, knowing they had noticed something was wrong with her after everything that has happened lately. Amaya broke once again, silent tears staining her cheeks yet again. And the next day was not emotionally better. Amaya woke up to a message from Mina asking if they could talk before classes began. The talk was just what Amaya expected, just far more people than she expected. Her whole friend group checked up on her and let her know they were there for her. Even Bakugo said something, very passive-aggressive reassurance, but that's who Bakugo is. The day of the sports festival finally came. Amaya found herself already on campus alongside her peers getting ready for the sports festival inauguration. Class 1A was in their waiting room trying to chill, the nerves of their first ever sports festival creeping in once again. All 20 students were already wearing their P uniform, which was honestly disappointing for Hero Corps students, but it's a precautionary method to avoid disadvantages. Man, I was totally hoping I could wear my costume, Mina said to no one in particular. Dissatisfaction clear in her voice. I mean, at least everyone will be wearing their uniforms, that'll keep things fair, Ojiro replied, trying to cheer Mina up. Yeah, Ojiro is right. It's not only us Hero Corps students participating, the other courses will too, and our costumes would mean us having an advantage, Amaya added. I wonder what they prepared for the first round, Sato said out loud. I don't know, but we gotta be ready to persevere, Tokoyami responded rather nonchalantly, but that's just who he is, so whatever. Some minutes later went by with the whole class chatting or stretching up before Ida burst into the room. Everyone, get your game faces on. We're entering the arena soon, Ida announced. This made Amaya a bit anxious. Knowing she slacked a bit on her training after her talk with Aizawa, the girl was already hoping for the worst outcomes ever. In the middle of the room, Midoriya looked like he was gonna combust out of nervousness. Doing a quick breathing exercise, his attention was quickly redirected to Todoroki, who called the boy out. Standing up from his seat, the bicolored-haired boy walked towards a still nervous-looking Midoriya. Hey Todoroki, what's up? Midoriya asked him, not knowing what to expect from their usually quiet classmate. At this point, everyone's attention was on both males. From an objective standpoint, I think it's clear that I'm stronger than you, Todoroki began, his tone harsh as he confronted Midoriya. Yeah, Midoriya muttered, now confused as to why one of the top students in their grade was confronting him. However, you got All Might on your corner helping you out. I'm not here to pry about what's going on between you. Just know I'm going to beat you. Todoroki finally finished. Everyone's sweat dropped at the sudden war declaration. Wow, what's with all of the war declarations lately? Kaminari asked, trying to dissipate the tension that now seemed to fill the room. Yeah, what's the big deal? Why are you picking a fight all of a sudden? And right before we get started? Kirishima, ever the friendly guy, stood up from his seat and walked towards Todoroki, placing a hand on his shoulder. Todoroki, cold as he always is, shook him off before walking away. We're not here to be each other's friends. Don't forget this isn't a team effort. Everyone was stunned by Todoroki's little act, thus making the tension inside the waiting room increase drastically. Before Todoroki could walk out the room, Midoriya snapped out of his confused daze. Wait, Todoroki, I don't know what's going through your head or why you need to tell me that you'll beat me. And yeah, you're better than me. In fact, you probably have way more potential than anyone in the Hero Course. Okay, now everyone is more confused than ever. Why the hell is Midoriya suddenly deprecating everyone in the Hero Course, including himself? Hey Midoriya, I think you're being a little harsh on yourself, Kirishima said once again, a nervous look on his face as he tried to de-escalate the situation. Seriously, why is Ida not interfering? He's constantly in everyone's business except this one time that he's actually needed as a class rep. And us, Amaya muttered quietly from her spot besides Mina, slightly offended by what Midoriya said. Despite it holding some truth, he has no right to actually state it when the issue is between him and Todoroki. No, he's right, all of the other courses are also aiming for the top, so we're all gonna have to fight to stand out. So I'm just letting you know, I'll be aiming for the top too. Midoriya finally finished. Got all of that yapping just to say he'll try his best? Hey, make some noise all of you Rabid Sports Fest fans. Get those cameras prepped, media folks. This year we're bringing you some of the hottest performances in Sports Fest's full history. Guaranteed. Present Mick's excited voice could be heard echoing in the entirety of the arena. I just have one question before we start. Are you ready? Mike finished his little opening before proceeding to start introducing the classes. Of course, he introduced Class 1A as the new fish class that survived a big-scale villain attack, and as he did so, all of the 20 students of the class walked into the field. The sudden sunlight hitting Amaya's face made her scrunch her face in discomfort, and the sound of the crowd cheering them on combined with their undivided attention on them overwhelmed her senses. All of this expected but unwanted attention made her want to puke out of pure terror. Now, how about you use that little quirk of yours, huh? The amplifiers should have taken effect now. Stop this temper tantrum now, you brat. Small flashbacks coursed through Amaya's mind as she grew more aware of the attention she was receiving, the voices of her classmates muffled as flashbacks continued to pass through her mind. They're all dead thanks to you. With a tightened jaw and fingers curled into fists clutching her uniform tightly, Amaya continued to walk along her classmates, her body seemingly moving automatically. Completely unaware of Present Mike continuing to introduce the rest of first-year courses. Amaya finally came back to reality when she felt someone bump into her. Turning to her left, she saw Kaminari's apologetic smile. "Oh, sorry Tara, I didn't mean to bump into you," the boy apologized, not having noticed Amaya's tensed-up stance. "Don't worry, Kaminari." She tried to muster a small smile and patted his shoulder lightly. Now the introductory speech. Ms. Midnight's voice broke the small interaction between Amaya and Kaminari. Her whip high in the air as if to call for attention, and it worked because everyone was paying attention to her, or more specifically her outfit. She might be quite inappropriate to be wearing at a high school event. Someone should talk to Ms. Midnight about what she's wearing, Kirishima said to no one in particular, a slight blush dusting his cheeks. That costume should come with a warning, Kaminari added, equally flustered. Talking erupted quickly by Midnight's revealing hero costume. "Silence, everyone," Ms. Midnight interrupted, her voice and the sound of her whip snapping being enough to redirect the attention back to her. "And for the student pledge we have Katsuki Bakugo." What? Bakugo giving the student pledge only meant an egotistical statement. Wide-eyed, everyone turned to see Bakugo walking up to the stage, hopeful that the blonde won't say something that further fueled the rage all of the first years have against Class A. "He's the first year's rep." Midoriya's voice came out shaky, obviously scared of what his childhood friend might possibly be about to say. "I mean, he was the highest score at the entrance exam," Siro said in an obvious tone. "Only for the hero course," a girl interrupted, quite annoyed by the fact people were talking so highly about the hero course, disregarding the efforts of students in other courses. "Oh, right," Midoriya's voice was heard yet again, not knowing what to say to avoid confrontation. "That girl obviously hates us," Amaya whispered. "We got Bakugo to blame for everyone hating our class," Kaminari responded. "I mean, he wasn't incorrect about what he said when the other courses came to declare war on us. He just really needs to lower his ego." Amaya defended Bakugo because she really does not think the ash blonde was in the wrong, it was just his attitude and the way he said it. Bakugo was already at the stage ready to do something that might fuel everyone's rage or something motivational. Looking right at him expectantly of what he'll say, Midoriya gulped nervously. That's when Bakugo said it, "The stupidest sheet ever. I just want to say, I'm gonna win." He has to be kidding, right? He did not just say that with the straightest face ever. Amaya wanted to die, and her classmates did too. All of the other first years began to boo Bakugo, and Ida scolded him from the field, but he didn't seem to care, calling everyone stepping stones on his way to victory. Amaya once again disassociated, the clamoring too much of a trigger her to bear. More flashbacks passed by as the negativity on the environment and on Amaya herself increased exponentially. At least all of this bullcrap will benefit her quirk. Jiro, who was right behind Amaya, noticed her sudden tensed-up demeanor, so she decided to shake Amaya slightly as if to draw her attention. Huh? Jiro, what's up? Amaya asked the short-haired girl, head craning back to look at her. You seemed like you weren't paying much attention. Ms. Midnight is about to present the first stage of the festival. That's all Jiro said, since her attention was fully on whatever Midnight was saying. And for the first challenge, an obstacle race. Ms. Midnight exclaimed, the screen behind her projecting what the race will consist of. A 4 km race around the outside of the stadium, and as long as you don't leave the course you may do whatever your heart desires, Ms. Midnight concluded. The rules were pretty simple. If the course was going to be like the entrance exam Amaya took, this was going to end pretty quickly. Amaya's plan was simple. She won't aim for the top just now, she'll try to stay low-key for now to save energy and to avoid others gathering intel on how her quirk works. All of the first years found themselves in front of a tunnel that possibly led to the actual course. The moment Ms. Midnight gave the signal to start, everyone started running, the tunnel quickly cramping with how many people were trying to get across it. The constant pushing of her persona reminded Amaya of the time people broke into Yue. Not wishing to be continuously hit, Amaya tried to get closer to a wall, small metallic roots emerging from the concrete as an improvised staircase that disappeared as soon as Amaya created another route. Being now over everyone else, Amaya stuck her body to the wall with several sundews on strategic places of her body. A sudden chill ran through Amaya's body. The rapid drop in the temperature only indicated Todoroki was using his quirk. Not wishing to be frozen to the wall, Amaya made the sundews disappear, and as she fell back down, skunk cabbages spurted on her feet, melting Todoroki's ice thanks to its exothermic properties. And Shoto Todoroki from Class 1A takes the first place by striking a freezing attack. Present Mix's voice can be heard even from outside the stadium. Nice trick, Todoroki, Yaoyorozu screamed, making Todoroki realize many people managed to avoid his glacier attack. I won't let you get away so easily, you icy hot bee. Next, Bakugo screamed threateningly as he propelled himself with his explosions. Amaya continued to run cautiously despite her ability to melt the ice for the entirety of the ground that got frozen by Todoroki. The only moment she stopped was when she saw a boy getting hit by a massive robot. Honestly, where does Yuta get the money to sustain all of this? Oh, seems like they're now encountering the first real obstacle. The Robo Inferno. Present Mike continued to narrate. Amaya was definitely shocked thinking about what her classmates had to face just to get into UA. Once again, a chill could be felt, indicating another massive ice attack from Todoroki. Robots frozen in place by a massive glacier, Todoroki ran through them and many tried to follow him only to be stopped by the machines falling down. Stupid Todoroki really thought about everything, didn't he? Amaya muttered to herself as the loose dirt in the air started to fall down, revealing some of the big robots now laying on the ground while others remained standing. Groans erupted from many students, thinking about the physical effort it'll mean to get through them, especially without a physical quirk. Explosion sounds could be heard, followed by some maniac crackles that could only belong to Bakugo, who was once again flying with the aid of his quirk. Amaya thought about making a rope-like vine and latching onto him, but she really didn't want to get on the blonde's bad side and didn't want that much attention on her yet. So just like many other students, Amaya began to climb, a mixture of thinly metallized roots and elephant ears growing from the robots. These metallic plants are only able to stand the weight of one person stepping on them, collapsing immediately if another person steps on them. It took her a while to get past some of the collapsed robots, but the moment she did so, Amaya took off running again. Thick roots emerging from the ground and wrapping around some robots, immobilizing them so she could get past them. Amaya could hear Present Mike still narrating everything but decided to not pay attention. Many students were now ahead of her, but Amaya didn't care. She ran at an ideal pace to preserve as much energy as possible. Reaching what seemed like a free fall to death, Amaya paid attention to what Present Mike said. Looks like a great majority of students have caught up to Todoroki in the next challenge. The fall. I wonder how y'all will get through this. Sue seemed to be lucky, being able to crawl through the ropes, a girl from the support using her gadgets, Todoroki freezing the ropes and sliding through them, Ida also sliding through the ropes with the speed of his engines, and Bakugo still flying. Amaya had to think of a way to get past this obstacle quickly and efficiently. In the end, Amaya grew small-sized but thick roots and jumped, swinging between the ropes with the roots as if crossing a monkey bar. This required a lot of arm strength, but Amaya had already practiced something like this with Aizawa during her first years with him training her. Look at the flower girl Amaya Tera, one of our recommendation students. Throughout the obstacle course, she's used her quirk very intelligently. No wonder she got in via recommendations. Present mixed statement about how she has done so far fueled her ego slightly, a small determined smirk now carved into her lips. The moment Amaya reached the next challenge, she saw a lot of dirt in a pile, oblivious to the small fight happening near the finish line. This made her frown since she could not guess what was the obstacle here, so she just ran in a straight line, not bothering to make a strategy. People running around her, blown away by a pink glittery explosion, now gave away what the obstacle here was. A minefield. Looking closely to the dirt ground on her feet, Amaya ran only through where she could see mines had already detonated. Not her best strategy, but Amaya was not in the mood to think, not from overuse of her quirk but from all of the flashbacks she's been getting. Listening as Midoriya was declared #1 winner of the obstacle race, followed by Todoroki and Bakugo. Amaya ended up in place 15, which she found pretty high considering it ruined her plan of staying low-key, but whatever. Gasping for air, she walked to a place with a bit of shadow plummeting to the ground. After catching her breath, Amaya looked for Midoriya with the intention to congratulate him, so when she saw him talking to Uraraka, she walked up to the duo. She slung her arms around their shoulders, catching the duo by surprise. "Hey Tera, what's up?" Uraraka asked Amaya. "Oh, nothing. Just wanted to congratulate you guys," Amaya said with a small smile, freeing the duo's shoulders. Being congratulated in response, the three of them continued talking for a while as more students kept on crossing the finish line, meaning they still had some time before the second challenge. By now, Ms. Midnight has already revealed that only the top 42 students will be able to participate in the second challenge. Whip continuously snapping at Ms. Midnight's every hand movement, the screen behind her showing a roulette that would tell what the second challenge will be. Prepare yourselves for the. Just as Ms. Midnight said this, the roulette shows that a cavalry battle will be held. In Amaya's opinion, this will make the festival more interesting. There at UA, everything has to be a little extra. You'll form teams of 3 to 4 people. It's basically the same as a playground game. But there is a slight difference. Each player will be given a point value based on their results on the obstacle course. Ms. Midnight began explaining how the cavalry battle will work. Oh, so each team will have a different point value depending on which students are on it. Uraraka thought out loud as if to see if she understood, but quickly backed down thanks to Midnight's scolding for interrupting. After this, Midnight continued, "Moving on. Point value will go up in increments of 5. For example, place 42 will be assigned 5 points, and finally the point value assigned to the first place is 10 million. And of course they had to F up with whoever got first place. They have to make this interesting for the viewers." Amaya could see the color draining from Midoriya's face the moment he heard that he was assigned 10 million points, and who wouldn't? Such an amount of points made him everyone's target. Initially, Amaya had considered teaming with Midoriya. His analytic nature and fast thinking made him a pretty reliable teammate, but with this new piece of information, Amaya decided against it, having every single team against her. No thanks. Forming a team with Midoriya would secure her getting disqualified. Midnight kept on explaining the game. The whole cavalry battle will last 15 minutes. Stolen headbands shall be worn from the neck upwards. If all your headbands get stolen, you can still play and win points, and quirks are allowed. Pretty simple rules, honestly. The only way you can get disqualified is by making teams fall on purpose. With 15 minutes to form teams, everyone started teaming as soon as possible. Highest-ranking students will have higher demand, and lower-ranking students were desperate to pass on to the next competition. Amaya drifted away from her class, seeing as a lot of them approached Bakugo to form a team with him. Of course, Bakugo being Bakugo doesn't know their names nor their quirks, annoying them because they're in the same class. He should at least know their quirks. Mindlessly walking, Amaya wasn't really paying attention to her surroundings, so when a hand landed on her shoulder, she flinched. "Hey Tera," it was Midoriya, probably wanting to team. Unfortunately, she had already labeled him as a bad choice, so she just removed his hand from her shoulder, leaving Midoriya dumbfounded. Some minutes later, Amaya felt someone approaching her. It was a blonde boy with periwinkle eyes, a boy with brown hair and a boy with white hair. Feeling yet another hand on her shoulder, Amaya turned around, facing the blonde boy. "You're from class, right? Based off what I could see during the obstacle course, you have quite a powerful quirk and you seem less of a stuck-up beach than the rest of your classmates." By the blonde's statement, Amaya didn't know if she should feel offended or flattered. The boy called her powerful but insulted her class right in front of her. Yeah, my name's Amaya Tera and I'm in class. Amaya tried to remain as calm as she could. Haha, no need to be so formal, Tera. Why don't you join my team? Name's Nito Monoma from class B, by the way. The boy who Amaya now knows is Monoma proposed. And why should I join your team? Amaya retorted, arms crossed, as she mentally contemplated if she really should team up with Monoma. The other two boys and him being from a different class was a huge disadvantage due to her not knowing their quirks. Well, you've been the whole obstacle course obviously trying to avoid unrequited attention and you know your classmate's quirk, which gives us an advantage to pass on to the next round. Monoma's reasoning sounded convincing enough, so Amaya agreed to form a part of their team. Still having about 10 minutes to spare, they talked about their quirks, strategy, and who will be the Ritter. By the end of the 15 minutes, Amaya now knew that Monoma's quirk allows him to copy others' quirks. Tsuburaba can solidify air and Kuwaro could control and travel through shadows. With Monoma as the rider, Amaya as the front horse, and Tsuburaba and Kuwaro as support on the sides, the unexpected team managed to surprise a few of Amaya's classmates, and she couldn't blame them. She had teamed with a class that declared war on them just a few weeks ago. Directing her gaze towards the spot where Aizawa, Amaya hoped to be able to lock gazes with him before this whole mess started. As if reading her mind, Aizawa managed to see Amaya's determined smile. The gesture usually would have Aizawa feeling proud of the girl, seeing how far she had come from, but he wasn't stupid. He might be injured but not blind. Aizawa had seen how much Amaya fought the spotlight during the obstacle course. The man only hoped she wasn't feeling overwhelmed or something like that. Present Mike enthusiastically started the countdown for the cavalry battle to begin. The moment midnight screamed, "Begin!" hell broke loose, everyone running towards Midoriya, anxious to steal the winning headband. Amaya knew her team's plan. They had talked about it beforehand, but Amaya couldn't help but to feel like it was a plan driven by Monoma's inferiority complex, but was too shy to protest. So, before Monoma could actually kill her, Amaya spoke. "Monoma, change of plans. Instead of trying to jump Midoriya's team, let's just steal everyone else's headbands. Everyone's gonna be so focused on the 10 million one to even notice." This new plan almost made Monoma explode in a fit of anger. "And you couldn't tell us the plan earlier, Tera? Why would you wait until the battle began? I forgive you just because it sounds like an actually good plan." Amaya winced at Monoma's mocking tone. "Sorry, I didn't think you'll consider it. Okay guys, let's get going. Which team should we attack?" Tsuburaba exclaimed, already excited for this. "Let's go for some general studies or support team, then we can go for hero course teams," Amaya replied, feet already moving with no actual target in mind. Seeing as they'll have to head towards where Midoriya's team is at. Amaya's team approached as much as they could but still kept their distance. Sadly, before they could steal any headbands, Amaya saw Team Midoriya flying thanks to a support item. Seems like trying to catch someone off guard will be hard considering everyone's target is going to be flying around. Kuwaro's voice sounded defeated and Amaya couldn't relate anymore. A maniac laugh erupted, followed by Monoma's voice, "Nah. With everyone attempting to predict Midoriya's team movements, we'll have plenty of opportunities." Stealing points from other teams with Amaya's quirk was not a difficult task, and Monoma knew it. As the blonde saw Hagakure's team approaching, he instructed the girl to fetch her headband with some vines. "You know you can ask me to do so in a nicer way, right?" Amaya murmured, a thin vine swiftly swooping the headband from Hagakure's head. About 10 minutes into the cavalry battle, Midoriya's team hadn't lost the 10 million points despite basically all of the other teams targeting them, and Amaya's team had successfully managed to maintain the 2 headbands they possessed. The plan Amaya proposed was kind of flopping thanks to a majority of the teams having lost their headbands. Of course, Monoma was fuming since he had abandoned his initial plan to follow Amaya's, but before he could question the girl, they ran into Bakugo's team. Having ran past so closely, Monoma took the chance to steal Bakugo's headband, and just as he did so, Amaya paid attention to whatever present Mike was narrating. Listening the pro's confused tone to Bakugo literally losing was kinda funny, and it could have lightened her mood if it weren't for her classmate almost losing his sheet over his defeat. "Your class is too small-minded. Think bigger," Monoma began, his usual taunting tone lacing every word he said. This seriously made Bakugo mad. He barely knew the other boy, but he already hated his guts. "What did you say? Come back here." Amaya wanted nothing more than to run away. An angry Bakugo meant bad news, and she knew damn well the boy would attempt to murder them. "Monoma, let's go. We already have his points. No need to pick on a fight," Amaya hissed as lowly as she could muster, although her statement made Bakugo angrier, taking this plea to escape as the girl undermining him. "Thief, did you say gardener? You think you're better than me?" Amaya felt her heart dropping to her feet. The sight of an angry Bakugo ready to pounce at them, not only to get his points back but also to beat their buttes, was not helping with the anxiety she has been feeling since the sports festival started. He really is fuming. "Let's get the heck away from here." Tsuburaba squeaked and the team ran away. Not really wanting to risk Bakugo's team catching up to them, Amaya took advantage of the tension and grew some vines from the ground to restrain Mina, Kirishima and Siro's ankles with thick metallic vines. With the whole team almost face-planting to the ground thanks to Amaya's restraints, Amaya heard Kirishima telling Mina how manly of a move it was. Not wanting to make Bakugo angrier, Mina quickly shot some acid to the vines to free themselves. Despite Kirishima's best efforts to calm Bakugo down, they soon found themselves encountering Amaya's team again. The moment Bakugo fired an explosion towards Monoma, the latter deviated it by grabbing Bakugo's wrist. Then Monoma literally blasted Bakugo in the face thanks to his copying quirk. I see why you like this quirk." Monoma continued to edge Bakugo, and Amaya knew this was gonna end badly. Kirishima was quite shocked at the sight of Bakugo's quirk being copied, but before anyone could react, Bakugo blasted another explosion at the boy in front of him. This time his explosion did land at Monoma's face, but Bakugo's satisfaction was cut short the moment dust cleared out. Monoma had copied Kirishima's quirk and hardened his arm and face to avoid getting hurt. "I have to admit you two have impressive powers, but I think mine's better." Monoma's smug tone didn't falter. Kirishima was more confused than ever, and Bakugo was getting angrier by the second. "Wait, what? Mine too." Kirishima seemingly still hasn't figured out that Monoma can copy quirks, but by the look on Bakugo's face he already figured it out. That's his quirk, shitty hair. He can copy others' quirks, and he did figure it out. "Took you some time to piece it all together? I'm impressed." Monoma's taunting continued, and Amaya was really fed up by his games. Monoma quit it. "As long as we can keep these headbands, we're good." And just as Amaya was saying this, she again restrained Mina, Kirishima and Siro's feet. What Amaya didn't account for was for another Class B team to appear as a decoy, a glue-like quirk user using his quirk as a decoy and as a reinforcement for Amaya's restraining force thanks to some glue landing on Kirishima's foot. Finally running away for good, Amaya felt relieved. Either way, she didn't trust Monoma's tongue, so she used her quirk to cover his mouth. Amaya knew this wasn't over. When Bakugo's team could break free from the restraints, they'll come after them. So when she heard Bakugo's explosions, Amaya was far from impressed. Despite Tsuburaba's best efforts to distract Bakugo with his solid air shields, Bakugo managed to steal 2 of their headbands. Trying to not get discouraged by the loss, Amaya's team kept on running and defending their last headband. Tsuburaba created solid air shields and Amaya made metallic vine walls. Unfortunately, they were quickly overwhelmed by Bakugo's sudden teamwork with Mina, Kirishima and Siro, getting their very last hope of passing on to the next round stolen. The cavalry battle came to an end after 15 minutes of pure agony to Amaya. With a heavy heart, Amaya headed towards her friends to congratulate them. When she got to the place where all of the action took place during the last 2 minutes, Amaya was stunned by the scene unfolding before her. Kaminari short-circuiting, Mina, Kirishima and Siro judging Bakugo, and Bakugo throwing a tantrum. What the hell is going on?" Amaya's soft yet very confused tone caught Mina's attention, and the moment her gaze landed on her friend's figure, she practically latched onto her. "OMG Terra, you did amazing. Sorry for getting you eliminated though, that was not nice of us, but girl, you gotta understand that Monoma guy was pretty annoying. Amaya wasn't really paying attention to Mina's ramble but was rather focused on Midoriya's random crying outburst. Taira, are you even paying attention to what I said? Mina whined, still clinging to Amaya's arm. This snapped Amaya out of her daze and mumbled an apology, but her friends weren't buying her act. They were now used to seeing Amaya intently listening to Mina yapping her ear off. Finally, after about an hour and a half, Present Mike and Eraser announced an hour break will be given so students and viewers could eat something and cool down a little bit. As usual, Amaya was walking with Mina, arms interlocked as they headed out towards the cafeteria. Outside the venue, Amaya and Mina were approached by Tsu, who congratulated Mina for making it onto the finals and also offered some comfort to Amaya, who still had a moppy look plastered on her face. Not in the mood to go to the cafeteria, Amaya separated herself from Mina's grasp. Mina, I'm not feeling that well. I think I'll go to Recovery Girl for some pills or a nap. Mina, who by now was also talking to Jiro and Yaoyorozu, turned to Amaya's direction and nodded. Oh, okay. I'll buy you a protein bar if don't make it to the cafeteria, Mina reassured. But Amaya didn't really think she could manage to eat something with the anxiety gnawing at her stomach. Yaoyorozu and Jiro hoped she would feel better and then proceeded to bid Amaya goodbye. Walking inside the stadium once again, Amaya was wandering through the halls when all of a sudden, from the corner of her eye, she saw Bakugo standing against a wall. Weirded out by the fact the blonde was not at the cafeteria, Amaya headed towards him. Bakugo, what a dash! Bakugo cut her off mid-sentence, left hand covering her mouth and his right hand making a silence motion. That's when Amaya heard voices down the hall, more specifically Midoriya and Todoroki's voices. Removing his hand from her mouth, Amaya questioned Bakugo once again. Why the crap are you eavesdropping a private conversation? Voice a silent whisper, not wanting Todoroki or Midoriya to acknowledge their presences. You're no better than me, Med Gardner. You're also eavesdropping. Now shut the F up and let me hear, Bakugo barked quietly. Have you ever heard about quirk marriages? Finally, after a few seconds of complete silence, Todoroki's flat voice was heard. Not receiving an answer to his question, Todoroki continued to explain how these became a problem within the first few generations of quirks. My old man bought my mom's relatives so he could get his hands on her quirk, and he's now raising me to surpass all might. It is so annoying, and I refuse to be a tool for that scumbag, Todoroki continued, anger more present in his voice, then paused for a second as if hesitating. In every memory of my mother, I only see her crying. I remember her calling my left side unbearable before pouring boiling water down my face. Todoroki's story continues to get even sadder. Amaya was pretty much stunned, already cursing herself for being so embarrassed to just walk away. Turning to see Bakugo's reaction, Amaya saw him deep in thought and decided against saying something. After Amaya heard Todoroki explain to Midoriya the reason he picked on a fight with him, Amaya realized Midoriya hadn't said a word the entirety of the conversation. Already feeling guilty for eavesdropping, Amaya mustered all her courage to walk away, not wanting to continue prying on others' businesses. The hour break had already passed by and everyone was once again inside the stadium. Amaya was feeling a bit better after taking a short nap at Recovery Girl's makeshift office. Embarrassment and self-consciousness pools in Amaya's stomach, having walked back inside the stadium completely alone and not being able to see her friends, making her feel like the audience is judging her. Amaya heard Present Mike talking about side games for students who didn't make it to the final to entertain themselves, but she couldn't care less about the games. She needs to find at least one of her friends before she loses her sheet. Thankfully for her, Present Mic's voice booming through the stadium brought everyone's attention to a group of girls standing at the sidelines. The girls, more specifically Class A girls, were dressed in cheerleading uniforms, implying Class 1A was doing fan service. Mustering the courage to move, Amaya headed towards the girls, a great majority of them looking embarrassed, which made Amaya think this wasn't done out of their own free will. Girls, why are y'all wearing cheer uniforms? Did I miss anything while at Recovery Girl? Amaya's questioning made the girls' embarrassment bigger. Yaoyorozu, who was already regretting all of her life decisions while Uraraka tried to offer some kind of comfort, spoke up. Kaminari and Mineta happened. Yaoyorozu started, letting out a defeated sigh before Uraraka continued explaining what happened. Ah yeah, apparently they told Yaoyorozu and Jiro that Mr. Aizawa had instructed the girls to wear these uniforms. Uraraka's explanation sounded quite ridiculous to Amaya but decided not to say anything to avoid making them feel worse. Wait. Who's Mineta? I don't think he's in our class, Amaya questioned, the realization of not knowing who this Mineta guy was. Ugh, lucky you. He's a boy from General Studies, tried for the hero course but failed, hence why he's in General Studied. Hagakure chimed in, pompons still in hand but the annoyance of getting tricked was still there. Finally, Midnight explained how the battles will be decided, her voice laced with her usual flirtatious tone, but before anyone could draw their lots, Amaya saw Ojiro raising his hand and announcing his withdrawing. This shocked everyone since the boy was quitting 1 out of 3 chances of getting scouted by pros. Of course everyone in Class A tried to convince him of participating but Ojiro profusely declined, stating it was a matter of pride. Ojiro's withdrawal inspired a boy from Class B withdrawing for the exact same reasons as Ojiro, surprising everyone yet again. This type of talk is incredibly naive, my boys. It turns me on, Midnight exclaimed before formally accepting both boys' withdrawal. In order to fill in the 2 spots that just opened up, Midnight proposed moving up 2 students from the 5th and 6th place from the cavalry battle, but a red-headed girl from the team on 5th place refused, stating that her team was frozen in place a great majority of the time and proposing to move up 1 student from Team Minoma. Since only 1 person from each team could be moved onto the final battles, each team decided to choose who'll participate in the finals with a rock, paper, scissors. From Team Tetsu won, and from Team Minoma, Amaya won. Amaya wanted to cry. She originally wanted to win, yes, but before the sports festival she didn't dimension the amount of attention she'd receive during the event. During the first 2 events she could avoid the attention, but during one-on-one battles everyone's eyes would be focused on her. Lots had been drawn already. Amaya's opponent for the battle was Kaminari, quite an easy opponent, but she knew better than to underestimate the boy. Kaminari was seemingly confident. He even approached Amaya, a smug smile plastered on his face, and his left arm found itself wrapping around her shoulders. Yo Tera, hope you forgive me for beating you when our turn to fight comes up. Don't worry though, I'll try not to be too harsh on you. Amaya couldn't really decide on whether to feel offended and walk away or laugh at the male's overconfidence. Amaya knew Kaminari had 0 strategy intelligence but decided to not say anything before the battle. Sure, Kaminari, no hard feelings for when you beat me up, was all that Amaya replied, a small tinge of sarcasm in her tone, but apparently none of her other friends noticed it because they all went on a rant of how she should be feeling a bit more confident about her abilities. A vast majority of students engaged in the activities UA prepared for them, and others tried to form a strategy, and that was Amaya's case. Wandering through the halls of the stadium, Amaya was looking for a quiet place where she could think properly. That's when she bumped into a very nervous-looking Midoriya. Oh, sorry Midoriya, didn't pay attention to where I was going, Amaya apologized. Tera. No, don't worry, I wasn't really paying attention either. I was really immersed in my thoughts. Midoriya started to ramble, too nervous to realize he began to do so until he saw Amaya trying to stifle a giggle. Sorry for laughing, you just seemed very nervous. It was kind of funny seeing you losing your mind over a bump, Amaya explained and then asked where he had come from. I was inside one of the waiting rooms talking to Ojiro, Midoriya replied, seeming a bit calmer. Oh nice. You want to head back? It would be nice to form a strategy with, and I've seen you're quite the observant type, would be really useful. Midoriya's silence made Amaya's anxiety increase. Maybe he thought she was weird or something. Sorry, yeah let's go, Midoriya accepted, but Amaya now felt as if she had burdened the boy and she really wanted to die at these thoughts. Already inside one of the waiting rooms, Amaya and Midoriya sat down beside each other, both teens slightly awkward. Sure, they talked before, but it was usually really small talk, so this was quite a change for them. Sue, you're going against that general studies guy, right? Amaya started, trying to break the ice by making quite an NPC question. Yeah, actually that's what Ojiro was talking about with me. He told me Shinso's quirk is brainwashing and that I should not talk to him during our battle, Midoriya replied, fingers fidgeting anxiously. Oh, does his quirk activate whenever a person replies to something he's asked then? Amaya questioned once again, curiosity bubbling about how this dude's quirk works. Yes, he asks a question to someone, and if he intends on brainwashing the person, all they have to do is give a reply and boom. Brainwashed, now Midoriya was feeling a bit more comfortable. In the end, quirk talks were his favorite thing ever, and he doesn't even have his notebook with him to make notes. I see, that's quite an easy win. Especially if you consider you've been training daily thanks to hero training, so even if you can't even use your quirk thanks to your lack of control over it, you still have the upper hand. Amaya's answer made Midoriya wince, not being able to tell if she was saying the quirk thing in a derogatory way. Wait, that sounded really mean. I didn't mean to say it like that. What I meant is that even without using your quirk you'd win, which is great because it preserves your energy. Amaya realized what she said sounded bad and was now rambling, arms flinging around in a very cartoonish way, making it Midoriya's time to laugh at the panicked look on her face. Moving on to another topic, more specifically Amaya's battle against Kaminari. So, based on what I've observed, your quirk is an emitter type which allows you to grow basically any plant you want, whether from your hands or from the ground. Quite a good quirk to go against Kaminari, who doesn't have a lot of control over his quirk. Amaya told Midoriya about her strategy, knowing Kaminari is pretty much a one-trick horse, and now Midoriya was muttering like crazy, obviously impressed by the versatility of the girl's quirk. I just realized I was muttering. Tara, why didn't you interrupt me? The realization fell onto Midoriya like a bucket of ice-cold water, a slight blush creeping up his cheeks out of embarrassment. I didn't think it'd be nice to do so. You seemed quite concentrated on analyzing my quirk, Amaya responded with a shrug. Sorry about that. Your quirk is really interesting, and up against Kaminari's the battle could extend a lot or last just a few seconds. And actually, now that I remember, when your battle is done, can I ask a few questions about your quirk? I want to add more info to my notebook. The question took Amaya aback. A notebook? Add more info about her? Yeah, sure, Amaya responded. Either way, she'll see whatever the boy has in his notebook once their initial battles end. Both teens continued to talk, now far more comfortable with each other. Sadly, their conversation was cut short by Present Mike announcing the finals were starting soon and the first participants should start getting ready, while the rest of the students had to take their seats at the stands from where they could see the fights alongside the public. So bidding their goodbyes, Amaya wished Midoriya luck in his fight.